2026. I'd like to call this meeting to order. Please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge
allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Please stand for a few moments of silence. Thank you. Lauren, would you call the roll?
Commissioner Jude Bond,
Here.
Commissioner John Bigelow,
Present.
Commissioner Hillary King,
Here.
Vice Mayor Commissioner Janet Wilson, Present, Mayor Commissioner Lisa Ellsworth.
Here. Well, I guess we're going to start the meeting, Brian, with a recognition of departing commissioners.
Yes, ma'am. So we'll start with Commissioner Bond. I believe he has some words to say, and then if afterwards, if he could come up to the front and the city wishes to give him a parting gift for his service to the community.
Thank you, Ryan. That's a nice setup. I have very little to say, but I will say that when I started this many years ago before I was elected, I did it because I thought it would be interesting, and it has been. So thank you all for all of the interesting times we've shared. I appreciate it all, and I've had a great time. Thank you.
So Commissioner Bond can come to the front. One of the privileges of being the new city manager in this community is that I get to start new traditions for this duly elected commission. You know, it's a volunteer job, right? I understand that there's a stipend that comes with it, but it's not worth the time that you put into it. So one of the things that I did in my previous city, I'd like to do now, and that is present street signs recognizing
Sure, absolutely. Boy, putting this right by your Thank you, Ryan. And thank you all.
You know, my job wouldn't have even been possible if it wasn't for the city staff. They've been such a great support system to me. Lauren, you're a rock star. So much behind the scenes work and probably gets the least appreciated. And I appreciate everything you've done for me, everything you stood up for me for, and I love you. Ryan, you know, you had some pretty big shoes to fill, and you've done so effortlessly. You've made it look so easy. I knew from the minute I met you, you were the one. And all I had to do is get the rest of the commission to go with me. And thank you for taking the job. Mr. Maggard, you know, we used to love Randy Mora, but once we didn't have to listen to his long speeches anymore, we came to appreciate you a lot more. And I loved having you on this team. You've been a great friend, a great guidance counselor to me, and thank you for everything.
Pleasure, sir.
Robin, I know you're the shortest member on this team, and we haven't been able to work together a lot, but the financial things you provided me have been very helpful. And I know you're going to love it here. Dean, you're the OG, man. You have been here the longest out of anybody. And my God, you run an amazing ship with the least amount of complaint. And for that, I honor you, sir. You've been an amazing guy for this city. And the rest of the staff, the compliance people, all the work you guys put in, and you don't care if you have to work overtime. You'll do anything for the city. And the way the city looks every day shows how much this staff works for this city. So I want to ask the new commission coming in, please respect these city employees. They work their ass off for you, and they make you look good. Thank you. Okay. I want my family up here. Come on, Gerald. Take a picture.
Jeff's got it.
Okay.
Yeah, I'll make sure you guys get all these pictures.
So I guess now we're moving on to the city attorney. We've got some swearing in to do.
This will be my first swearing-in ceremony here at Indian Rock Beach, so I'll ask the city clerk, do you want me to administer it here or at the podium?
Yeah, please, if you could stand, I think it'd be great for pictures if we could, you could stand, and then we'll call on first, Commissioner Kelly Lott. You would stand, is that okay?
Yeah.
I'm sorry. I do that, Mr. Leonard.
Didn't know what about that.
You know what, Dean, can we get the microphone,
Thanks working with you.
thanks, Dean.
All right, please raise your right hand and repeat after me. I, please state your name,
I, Kelly Watt,
do solemnly swear
do solemnly swear
that I will support, protect, and defend
that I will support, protect, and defend
the Constitution and government of the United States
the Constitution and government of the United States
of the state of Florida
of the state of Florida
and the city of Indian Rocks Beach,
and the city of Indian Rocks Beach,
and that I am duly qualified to hold office
and that I am duly qualified to hold office
under the Constitution of the state
under the Constitution of the state
and of the charter of the city,
and of the charter of the city,
and that I will faithfully perform
and that I will faithfully perform
the duties of city commissioner
the duties of city commissioner
of the city of Indian Rocks Beach,
of the city of Indian Rocks Beach,
on which I am now about to enter.
on which I am now about to enter,
So help me God.
so help me God.
Congratulations. Commissioner Wilson, you're next.
You have 3 minutes.
Please raise your right hand and repeat after me. I, please state your name.
Janet Wilson.
I
Janet Wilson,
do solemnly swear
do solemnly swear
that I will support, protect, and defend
that I will support, protect, and defend
the Constitution and government of the United States,
the Constitution and government of the United States,
of the state of Florida,
of the state of Florida,
and the city of Indian Rocks Beach,
and the city of Indian Rocks Beach,
that I am duly qualified to hold office
that I am duly qualified to hold office
under the Constitution of the state
under the Constitution of the state
and of the charter of the city,
and of the charter of the city,
and that I will well and faithfully perform
and that I will well and faithfully perform
the duties of city commissioner
the duties of city commissioner
of the city of Indian Rocks Beach, Florida,
of the city of Indian Rocks Beach, Florida,
on which I am now about to enter, so help me God.
on which I am now about to enter, so help me God.
Congratulations. Please raise your right hand and repeat after me. I, please state your name,
I, Land Vaughn,
do solemnly swear
do solemnly swear
that I will support, protect, and defend
that I will support, protect, and defend
the Constitution and government of the United States,
the Constitution and government of the United States,
of the state of Florida,
of the state of Florida,
and the city of Indian Rocks Beach,
and the city of Indian Rocks Beach,
that I am duly qualified to hold office
that I am duly qualified to hold office
under the Constitution of the state
under the Constitution of the state
and of the charter of the city,
and of the charter of the city,
and that I will well and faithfully perform
and that I will well and faithfully perform
the duties of Mayor Commissioner
the duties of Mayor Commissioner
of the city of Indian Rocks Beach, Florida,
of the city of Indian Rocks Beach, Florida,
on which I am now about to enter, so help me God.
of which I am now about to enter, so help me God.
Congratulations.
I've been doing a little bit of reading these past few days, so please forgive me. At this particular point, would we redo the roll call?
Yes, please.
Okay.
Sorry, on the wrong page. Oh, it's excitement. Okay.
Commissioner Kelly Watt. Present. Commissioner John Bigelow.
Present.
Commissioner Hillary King.
Here.
Vice Mayor Commissioner Janet Wilson.
Present.
Mayor Commissioner Land Vaughn.
Here. And at that, the next point of our agenda says that we are going to have presentations. We're looking forward to hear from the County Sheriff's Office.
First off, I just want to introduce myself. I'm Corporal Rebecca Locke, so I supervise the beaches, most importantly, Indian Rocks Beach tonight. Presenting, there were 3 people arrested in the month of February. There were 2 felonies, a misdemeanor, and a traffic misdemeanor, a valid driver's license, violation of injunction, possession of firearm by a felon, and grand theft of a firearm as well. So, other than that, we've been harping down on the Airbnbs, ordinance violations, as you have seen the emails going back and forth from the sheriff's office to you guys. We're trying to break it down a lot, breaking up these parties. You know, I know it's February, but this month has been really hard with the little spring breakers, you know, as you know. If you have any questions, please reach out to me. I can give you my phone number now or after the meeting is concluded.
Mayor and Commissioner, I would like to just take an opportunity to thank the Sheriff's Office and Captain. Each week, I get a call report on calls, anything that comes in here in Indian Rocks Beach. It's something that we haven't received in the past. They've been very responsive, so I want to thank the Sheriff's Office for providing that on a weekly basis. Just allows myself and staff to have a full understanding of where the calls are coming in, what locations, what properties, and so that we can react accordingly. So, thank you.
Thank you. We do appreciate it, and thank you for your continued support in helping us kind of
Absolutely. You have a good day.
keep everybody safe. Thank you. Next, I would like to call up our Pinellas County Fire and Rescue District. We're going to learn a little bit more about what they do, from what I understand, and he even has a slideshow for us. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Well, Commissioners, I would want to point out one of my commissioners is here tonight. That's Commissioner Knight in the back of the room. I'll explain a little bit more about his role, and I picked a good meeting to have an education on the Special Fire District. I'll try to be short. I did this recently, and it took about 15 minutes, so just to set expectations. But it's a great time with the new mayor, new commissioners, to help put into context what your fire and rescue district is. I published a few articles recently in the neighborhood news, and hopefully everybody's read those, because I think it gives a very good overview of the system. But we are working on some initiatives with the other cities to improve the service up here. And so, yeah, our agenda is going to be our introductions, which I just did a little very quickly: history, funding, current state, system design, how we decide where to put fire stations and paramedics, future of what we need, and the power of unity, which is all of us working together. And then I'm going to touch on real quick the TPLE, which is short-term rentals, and our resolution on that. So I like to say what makes you special. We're a special fire control district, which means we're a governmental entity established by the state. And ironically, or I didn't even realize this, there's more special districts than there are cities in the state of Florida. There's actually about 1,400 and about 700 fire departments. They're enacted by the state to cover areas that normally wouldn't have coverage. It would be too difficult for you to have a fire department and for Bella Beach to have a fire department. So they cover wider areas. And they're called special districts, just like Swiftmud, the water district, that's a special district as well. So that's our legislation. We were established in 1951. We serve 4 cities and a piece of the mainland. The white on the map is what we cover: Bella Beach, Bella Shore, Indian Rocks Beach, Indian Shore, and a piece of Oakhurst community on the mainland. Okay. We're a single function government entity, so I come to your meetings and I love it, and I'll normally come and just give a really brief report on statistics, and I'll tell you about any big incidents we had, but tonight it's a little bit longer. But we're a single, and I always appreciate at the meetings that I'm a single function government. Because I don't have to worry about storm drains or beach access or parking. All I worry about is fire and EMS. So single function government. We're the most cost-effective approach, and I'm going to prove that to you in a minute. And also the way we look at it. We're local. We have a local and engaged board. So Commissioner Knight lives in the Oakhurst area. So our commissioners actually live in each of our areas. So we have one assigned to your area. Her name's Betsy. And we have a commissioner for each city, basically, that's on our board. So we're your community fire department, and we're your advocates and subject matter experts. I appreciate the city manager said, you know, I'm glad that you're here, and I don't have a fire department to deal with like in my own city, so I appreciate that, and I understand that. I worked at the county a year ago, and about 2 years ago, you all voted to tax yourself, which I thought was crazy. You know, that a city would do that. I was on the outside looking in, and I thought, why would they do that? But now I understand you're really smart out there. So a couple years ago, our funding was only non-ad valorem funding, so it was a flat fee per household. $360 is what it is today. That fee would never keep up with inflation, and so we were behind in salaries, behind in stations, behind in everything, and we were on the verge of insolvency. Now the problem with an ad valorem tax, and I know this is a big topic now, is it outpaces inflation, right? So if you only go by ad valorem tax, you ended up having cities, and that's what the governor's talking about now, is just getting fat on all the increased property values. You, a few years ago, voted for a small ad valorem tax. So we're funded by both, a small flat fee and a small ad valorem tax. And it's the best of both worlds. And here's why I can prove that to you. So our column there, PSFRD, is what we charge per household of the average household price. So in Indian Rocks Beach, $572,000 average that's taxable value. Average person pays $744 from that formula I just gave you. If we would have gone insolvent and you would have been taken over by the county's dependent district, which is solely ad valorem tax, which would likely be the Seminole district, you would have been paying $1,000 instead of $744, so $287 more. No matter what dependent district you fall into, you pay more. And as property values go up, the gap grows. So if you look at Bel Air Shore, it's an extreme example of their average value is $4.5 million. they pay only $3,400 per household, but if they were part of the Seminole District, they'd be paying $8,000 a household. So this is the best model. I'm convinced of it, and I just wanted to show that to you. And we'll continue to be good stewards of the taxpayer money, and I'm going to give you some examples of that in a second. Next slide. So EMS, though, is separate. It's funded separate. It is a county authority. They tax the citizens and a 0.8 mil, and then they give us money to hire paramedics to put on our fire trucks. And that's how our system works. Our district is taxed about $4.9 million a year for EMS. The county collects that, and we get about $2.3 million back from that. And so to provide paramedics on the truck. So there's a little gap there. 48% of your EMS tax dollars is going to actually fund us. The rest goes into helping the system as a whole. So our net contribution is about $2 million now. With the changes that I'm going to tell you about that we're trying to do, it actually brings our ask of the county up to $4.4 million. And I want you all to understand that because one of the county, because we're a special district, we're sort of ignored. And you cities have a lot of power, a lot of say. You have a lot of influence. 4 of you with common voices have an enormous amount of power. So as I'm going to tell you what we're advocating for, but the county staff sometimes says, well, the commissioners support you, but do they really understand what you're saying? So tonight's all about that understanding of what we're saying. We don't have a funding gap out here, we actually just have a deployment gap. And I'll explain that in a second. If you go to the next slide. So the county has a standard that every citizen should get care, emergency medical care, or fire in 7.5 minutes. Barrier Island geography is a challenge. High value communities, and we're not meeting the standard, and I'll show you some maps in a second. But this is a known and a very solvable gap, and we're going to solve it really quick, and you guys have helped a lot. How we design a system. So if you have no fire stations that can get there in 7.5 minutes, you have 0% coverage. And if you have one, you actually only have 70% coverage, because sometimes that station's out on maintenance, training, on another call. And so really to get reliable coverage, you got to have overlapping circles, and you can get up to 90, 99% coverage area. Okay, we're going to come back to this in a minute because this is important. I've got maps that show this. So real world benefits, everybody believes me, I'm sure, when I say time is of the essence. It matters, so you can split through. So this is cardiac arrest. Yeah, there you go. Cardiac arrest, survival drops 10% every minute. So if I see someone here have a heart attack, their chances of surviving are almost 100% by ALS care. If it goes 1 minute, it's 90%. And if it goes 10 minutes, it's 0. So time, every minute matters in cardiac arrest. Well, it turns out, next one. Same is true with stroke. When I grew up as a paramedic, somebody asked me the other day, how long you've been a paramedic, and 45 years. So when I became a paramedic, strokes, we just had the people sit there and they got as better as they were going to get. That was it. Nowadays it's the same as trauma, it's the same as cardiac arrest. Time really matters. If you can get to a stroke patient quickly, you can actually completely reverse it. So same is true in stroke, same is true in cardiac arrest, same is true in trauma. If you get to trauma patients within the first hour, they have a great chance of surviving. This is a 2009 study, which is shocking to me. So I've been the fire chief for about a year. So when I started getting up to speed on all this, a 2009 study, the red shows where you don't have adequate coverage in the county. So Barrier Island, affluent community, you saw the tax values and what we're contributing to the system. And North Indian Rocks Beach, you just can't get there in time. This was in 2009. Next slide. And they said why? Barrier Islands have, it's difficult to find land, it's a linear, all the reasons. So it's not a rural area issue though, it is a Barrier Island issue, and we're going to solve it. Next slide. So this is a map, I hope you all can see it. So the map on the left is a computer model of if it's possible to meet the 7.5 minutes, which it's not. You can see all the way from about almost where we are now, or actually a little north of where we are now. We're pretty good right here because we're close to our station. You get up to where the entrance to the fingers are, and those people all the way up into Delaware Beach, Delaware Shore. You can't get there in 7.5 minutes. The map on the right is real calls. So whether we made it there in 7.5 minutes or not, and you can see it's a disaster. So inadequate coverage. So remember the circles, and hopefully you can see these on your TV. I don't have a pointer, but if you look at North Indian Rocks Beach, what do you see? And now this is a test question, this is part of like, so what percent coverage do you have? Yeah, 0. Right, there's no circle that covers. People to the north are like, can't Largo come over, can't the station up in Clearwater come down? As you can see, they just can't get there, it's not close enough. So inadequate, and there's great coverage down in, like where our south station is, Indian Shores and the Reddington. So next slide. So the county has started this initiative. They're actually building a station in Indian Rocks Beach. And so you can see that gives great coverage to the south, but that doesn't solve our problem to the north. And we're asking for help from the county to solve our problem in the north, using this as sort of a trampoline launching point. So next slide. We asked the county how many stations do we need, where do they need to be? They told us. The black dot on the top is Church of the Isles here in North Indian Rocks Beach. I was thinking about it the other day. Every city going up and down the beach, every other city has a fire department. And then Indian Rocks Beach actually is going to have 2 stations. So after what we're going to do. So I think that's awesome. So now we're talking about, on this map, you can see the white dot on the south, the middle arrow. That's where we're going to move our station to. So to spread out that overlap in the south, so that then it just justifies us, and we're going to add a station up here in North Indian Rocks Beach. And now you can see all the dots are connected. You can see the maps on the right. You know, we have all green dots. The maps, though, show the station at Bel Air Beach City Hall. And if you can imagine, when that moves south, it's actually going to make all of Indian Rocks and all of South Bel Air Beach green. So it's a great location. So that's what it looks like when it's done. What we're asking the county and we're shooting for is we need 1 paramedic to. I've told the county we're going to solve the fire problem. I'm the fire guy, but they have to step up and solve the EMS problem. So we're asking the county for a paramedic for this station, which is going to be 75. I think this is a good quick segue to 75. We bought property at the Church of the Isles. We I can go back. We bought a house next to the property at Church of the Isles. The city has been awesome to work with, by the way. And so we're going to put a crew up there by October. So we're going to put a fire crew up there by October, and we're asking the county, and I have a meeting Friday in front of the Emergency Medical Service Advisory Board, where I'm making these asks, and the county has said, we're going to hold the line, we're going to give no enhancements this year, but we need your help, and we're going to push for them to do the right thing. 1 position for Station 75 up here. 1 more position for our station at 27, which is the station at the Narrows. We have an engine there with a paramedic on it, and I'll show you in a minute, but what happens is we don't have a transport-capable unit out here. The transports are done by the Sunstar ambulances you see. Well, it's a great system, except when you're out here on a barrier island and you can't get an ambulance, it's a problem. So the other day we had a problem, we needed a transport unit, and so we did what we call, there were no ambulances. We specialed up a fire rescue transport unit, which is a rescue. And they responded to the closest one, which was Pinellas Park. So Pinellas Park ambulance coming out here for an emergency. Just makes no sense. So the second position for our Station 27 will give us an ambulance there. They've already bought the ambulance, we have it in service. It just allows us to put 2 paramedics or 2 ALS people on an ambulance at that station. That's the second ask we have. And then the third ask is to collaborate. The county has said they're willing to give us use of a piece of the Tiki Gardens property, which is the perfect location for this white dot on the south. They said they don't want to give it to us. They want to sell it to us or something. I said, our citizens are the same tax-paying citizens. You want me to tax my citizens to pay you, right? The same citizens. Like, it makes no sense. So we're working through that. But that's our ask. So we actually wrote a draft resolution for your commission to support of the Tiki Gardens. I'm not sure, I may come back and ask for support for the paramedic positions as well. So Station 75 I talked about is here in Indian Rocks Beach. We've already put a real investment in. We've got 1.2 million, 1.5 million into it, just on property and the half-finished house. So we will be there. All we need is the EMS position for that one and the next one. So Rescue 27 I talked about. This is a map of the county's rescues. The 2 greens are no rescues. They're proposed rescues. So you can see we're the only place in the county that doesn't have a fire department transport-capable rescue. So we're asking them to do that. Makes sense. Next slide. So 1 position Station 75, 1 position 27, strategic relocation to the Tiki Gardens. I'm sorry to keep hitting that. This is a bunch of words, it says the same thing. We're asking for your support for those things. We can go to the next one. Our summary is the cities, we get our strengths together. The cities and Pinellas County Fire and Rescue District, we recognize that we're stronger together, and I hope I've shown that what happens is like a spider web. What happens in the Tiki Gardens affects you up here, and what happens up here affects our other cities. So we've gone to great effort. We had a city summit about probably about 6 months ago, where we got representatives from all the city commissions, city managers together, and we'll do that again, but where we get more in depth to how we serve you as your fire department. So we're leading the next step, which is building the station and asking the county for money. We may come back to you for more support. I wanted to real quickly highlight why we're making a big. We take taxpayer dollars really seriously. Me, myself, I retired from the fire service and was dragged back into service. I went into private industry, so we looked at return on investment and does the financial decisions make sense, right? So now when I came back to the fire service, they told me that a station here at Church of the Isles would cost about $10 million. $1,000 a square foot to build a big garage that 4 people can stay in housing. It makes no sense. $1,000 a square foot. The most expensive house at Bel Air Beach is $800 a square foot. Why the house for firefighters and a big garage doesn't go? It's because they think we're government. I just am standing up and saying no. So I challenged my staff. That's why we bought the house, and the firefighters are going to reside in the house, and we're going to build a apparatus floor, and we're going to keep the two pretty separate, and that's a good for cleanliness because we have a lot of cancer concerns now with the chemicals they deal with, and also just mental health. So it's better for their health, but it also saves us about $7 million. I think we're going to pull that off for about $3 million. So it's a saving to the taxpayer of $7 million. So that's how we're thinking. I drive a 2014 Ford Explorer. I'm not getting like in private industry and in government. I think we should think this way. Like, you replace a car because the maintenance gets too high and it's unreliable. You don't replace the car because it's on a fleet replacement schedule to replace it, right? And so we're taking that approach to everything we do. I just wanted to take a minute to highlight that my commission is amazing and driving that. So we're not trying to expand. I went to Valley Beach and the guy called me an empire builder. We're not trying to expand. We're just trying to, and to be honest with you, we may cut back the service on Rescue 27. Once we build out the system, at 8 at night, I lived out here for a little while, and they roll up the sidewalks. It's amazing. Like, the roads are empty at 8 o'clock at night. So our problem isn't, at 10 o'clock at night, 3 in the morning, getting up here or to the fingers. Our problem is during the day, it's gridlock. You can't get anywhere. So, I'm thinking in terms of maybe peak loading, like putting a rescue 12 hours a day at that station just to save the cost. 85% of our budget is salaries. So it just saves a piece of that. Okay. I would ask if, I'm going to tell you one quick thing about TPLE resolution. So this is a quick thing about short-term rentals, and I know it's a hot topic up here. Our commission this year enacted a resolution 2026-01, which reclassifies TPLE as commercial instead of residential. So it's based on use, and it has to do with that non-ad valorem fee. And so we base this on Manatee County, and I've got some pictures of their coverage area. They're almost identical to us. 3 cities on the islands and a piece of the mainland. 80% of their island is short-term rental. And so this is their resolution that we adopted. But basically, at first I thought, a residence is a residence, how can it cost more, right? 76% of their fires in Anna Maria were in short-term rentals. 100% of their child drownings were in short-term rentals. So once they enacted this resolution and they aggressively went after making sure that they do the inspections on these short-term rentals, and they do education, make sure the pool cage is good for the kids, and do education and make sure there's no fire hazard. Now their fires are 17% in short-term rentals. So 80% of their population is short-term rentals, and 17% of their fires are short-term rentals. And 0% of they haven't had any child drowning in short-term rentals since they started educating. So I think those numbers are, and that's why we're doing it. And we're working really closely with the city manager is very innovative, and we're trying to figure out how we do that, with as little pain as possible. And we work together to do that, so we thank you for that.
Well, thank you.
And I leave you with any questions.
Commission, do y'all have any questions for me?
No, I think it was a great presentation.
Great presentation. You brought up some deficiencies, but I know that you have those covered until we get this accomplished. Could you share with the audience your contingency? I believe y'all have a fire truck that's stationed somewhere to meet that gap until October. Is that correct?
Well, we currently, our closest station is 27.
Okay.
We were working on, we had asked Bel Air Beach to temporarily house the truck up
Yes.
there, and that didn't work out.
It didn't.
They had a house that needed construction, and quite frankly, their citizens didn't want us up there.
Okay.
And it's just been great. You guys are all very welcoming. So in the meantime, it is as it has always been. We have a truck at 27, and we just work really aggressively.
Making ends meet. No pun intended. What can we do to help you? And I'm going to use the word reclaim the tax dollars from Pinellas County for our city.
So if we need it, maybe we'll, so I'm going to ask that you do a resolution. We've already given a draft for the Tiki property. If, depending on how Friday goes, I may come back and ask for a resolution of support from you all for the extra, at least one other position. We need two, but at least reclaim one of those. I'm also doing more research because the county always says there's some cities that are, some areas that are donors and some that are givers, right? But 53% doesn't seem like a giver to me. It seems like we're giving way too much. So I'm also doing my research with the other districts and to see really what's reasonable. And with our ask, we come up to 86%. And then, so if we get these two positions, we've reclaimed it.
Okay.
We feel really good about that. So knowing what we need, and then, because the county administrator will come up, you'll be at a meeting, and the city manager of Union Shore said, yeah, I was at this meeting, the county manager came up and asked, and he basically is seeing if you really know, what we're needing. So also just your situational awareness is awesome.
Well, I know you're independent, and we thank you for being here, and we're here to help in any way we can to serve our citizens, and we do appreciate everything you're doing.
Thank you.
Thank you. And back on, you mentioned the resolution 2026-01.
Yes.
That's converting short-term rental residences into a commercial taxable unit. Is that correct?
The way we tax them is based on use, not zoning. So
Use,
yes,
not
it
zoning.
considers them as commercial use,
Okay.
and it slightly increases their non-ad valorem tax.
Okay.
So, and we're working through that.
Well, and you stated the case perfectly, 67% of the fires and 100% of drownings.
And Manatee had to hire 6 new fire inspectors just to do their short-term rental inspections. So we have one full-time person just doing short-term rental inspections, and she tries to do a really good job. But yeah, there is an additional cost.
Well,
We have, I'll give a plug for our commission meeting. It's the third Tuesday of every month. And it's posted on our website. And it's either at Bel Air, lately it's been Bel Air Beach. Next year when we finish our station, I didn't really give you a capital update, but we're building a station in Oakhurst currently. We'll have a diocese there for our commission meetings. Right now we rotate them between there and Indian Shores. And so if you check our website, but if anybody from the public's welcome to come. We value the input. We actually have one of your citizens here that has been helping us a lot with the property here. So,
that's awesome. Thank you.
thank you.
Thank you so much. Next on the agenda, we have a proclamation, and it is for the National Public Works Week that is May 17th to May 23rd. And I'm going to do my best to read this. Please bear with me. National Public Works Week, May 17th to May 23rd, 2026. Whereas public works professionals focus on infrastructure, facilities, services that are vital of importance to sustainable and resilient communities as well as to the public health, high quality of life and well-being of people of the city of Indian Rocks Beach. And whereas these infrastructures, facilities, and services could not be provided without the dedicated efforts of the public works professionals, who are engineers, managers, employees of all levels of government, and the private sector, who are responsible for rebuilding, improving, protecting our nation's transportation, water supply, water treatment, solid waste systems, public buildings, other structures, and facilities essential to our citizens. And whereas it is public interest for the citizens, civic leaders, children within the city of Indian Rocks Beach to gain knowledge and maintain an ongoing interest and understanding of importance of public works and the public works program in their respective communities. And whereas the year 2026 marks the 66th annual National Public Works Week, sponsored by American Public Works Association, Canadian Public Works Association, be it now and resolved that I, Lan Vaughn, Mayor Commissioner of Indian Rocks Beach, Florida, and on behalf of the City Commission, do hereby proclaim this week of May 17th to May 23rd, 2026 to be National Public Works Week. In witness thereof. That's for me to sign, but let me sign it. Dean, would you please come up?
Thank you, Mayor and Commission, members of the audience. As the Mayor indicated, the National Public Works Week 2026 theme is Rooted in Service, Powered by Community. The theme focuses and emphasizes that public works professionals are deeply rooted in their commitment to serving the public, with their efforts driven and powered by the community they serve. The City of Rocks Beach Public Works Department consists of 15 employees, 7 divisions, and 1 team. I am very fortunate to have the privilege to lead this team of very talented individuals, and we have a feeling of satisfaction that we serve the residents of the City of Rocks Beach well on a daily basis. I also would like to have some of our team that came this evening come up front so everybody can be recognized, if you would, please, Mayor.
Yes.
Gentlemen, ladies.
I also want to say, when we talk about first responders, when we talk about police, when we talk about fire, these guys are first responders too. And I think what you've seen with hurricane response, these guys go out there and they're out there with police and with fire. So these are your first responders.
And now on the agenda is neighbors' comments. I'm going to read this, 3-minute time limit per speaker. Any member of the audience may come forward, give their name and address, and state any comment or concern that they may have regarding any matter over which the City Commission has control, excluding agenda items. All statements made to the City Commission shall be made to the City Commission as a whole, not directed at any individual City Commission member, and no personal, impertinent, or slanderous remarks shall be permitted. No speakers shall be interrupted, and no debate shall occur between the speaker and the City Commission. I was told that this was done to speed up the process, and I welcome y'all to come and speak. I also welcome you, if you do not want to come speak, please email us. But anyway, the floor is open to you.
Good evening, and congratulations, Thea Wilson, 444 Harbor Drive South, Indian Rocks Beach. My first comment is congratulations to all of you, and thank you abundantly for serving. And speaking of serving, I'm filled with gratitude that on a state level that Florida State Representative Kimberly Burfield has come to the meeting tonight to welcome everyone who is newly elected and to collaborate with our city and be an active participant as an elected official. It just fills me with gratitude that she has taken the time, with legislation being down now, to spend this evening with us, and we sure appreciate it. Second comment, I finally made it to the library day before yesterday. It's beautiful, well done, and I want to thank the Rotary Club too. I attended their meeting this morning, and I know that they've done a beautiful job of helping to contribute to the library, which is such a grand thing for our children and for little adults that like to read a lot. So it's been very, very nice to have that reopen. Thank you.
Thank you.
So, Mr. Mayor and Commissioners, if I may, I'm State Representative Kimberly Burfield, and I have the honor of representing our community. I begin by saying thank you, but also thank you for your service and your engagement with us as state representatives. The only way we can effectively do our job is if we have open lines of communication, and over the past few years, we've had that open line of communication, especially about some of the issues that you've already mentioned tonight and won't be mentioning once again. One of the questions I frequently get asked at this point in time is, so what exactly did you do in the legislature this year? I would share with you, sometimes it's not what we do, but it's what we prevent from happening. And I would say that's probably even more relevant or pertinent this year, as we saw two pieces of legislation which truly would have had a significant impact on our community. One of those pieces of legislation is CSHB 1297. It was on beach management. And that piece of legislation basically would have undermined all of the hard work that had been done working with the Army Corps for engineers on trying to address our issues that have been ongoing for the past 2 years. With that piece of legislation, while I didn't serve on the committee, as soon as I was made aware of it, I got together a small coalition of other representatives who represent our type of community, a beach community, where it really would have an impact. We went to the chairman and we were able to keep that piece of legislation from being agenda, and so it did not pass the House. What we were able to determine from it, it was a local issue, and instead of approaching it as a local bill, the member had chosen to try and take a statewide approach, and I have found that's not always the best way. So we were able to work with him and address his local issue at the same time. The other piece of legislation I'd share with you that we had been active in trying to address the issues around was one that's going to be dealing with an issue you're going to be talking about a little bit later this evening, and that was CS for CS House Bill 1389. It was about affordable housing, which when you hear that term, affordable housing, you think, how in the world could you be against a piece of legislation like that? But unfortunately, there was a component of that bill that dealt with accessory dwelling units, which would have widely expanded short-term rental issues. And so it was one of those pieces of legislation. The gentleman who sits to my right on the House floor was the sponsor, and he and I had long conversations, and while I was not able to persuade him to change the legislation, decided to take a little bit of a different tactic, went down the hall, worked with the Senate, and when the Senate sent the bill back to us, that was removed from the piece of legislation. So we were once again able to protect our communities, as unique as they are, from something that would have had a statewide impact specifically for us. So there are a number of I know a lot of people like to stand up and talk about the legislation they've passed, but I just wanted to share some of the ways that, because of the communications you have with us, because of some of the things you share with us, because of the citizens as active as they are, as you can see this evening, we really are more effective in achieving things and making sure things don't happen. So I look forward to that continued relationship with this commission, with you, Mr. Mayor, and welcome you to stay in contact with us so that we can continue to do some good work.
Good evening. Bert Valerie, 2113 Gulf Boulevard, New Rock Beach, 47-year resident here in New Rock Beach. Just to get right to it, is I would like you to consider at a future meeting reinstituting the planning board. We used to have a planning board, I'll give you a little bit of history, from the 60s, the 70s, the 80s, and 90s. And then when the last mayor came in, the city was in a real budget fiasco. I think we were right at the edge of going bankrupt. So he did a whole lot of things that saved us money and maybe saved our city. One was terminating the planning department. When that happened, I thought that was probably a good idea because he wasn't doing a job at all. But on the other hand, I misinterpreted what happened. I thought we were terminating him and not the whole department. So instead of, we used to meet 2 times a month, every month. So that means 24 times a year. Plus you would have your Board of Appeals maybe meeting 5 to 7 times a year. So you were getting, like 30 free meetings for this board that's not being paid, working for you. And we haven't had that now in the whole term of our last city commissioner. So I really think it's something you should look at. Just highlighting some of like the golf cart ordinance, we wouldn't have had golf carts, getting rid of the newspaper racks things, no dogs on the beach, the bicycle lanes, the crosswalk lane, it goes on and on and on. But catching up on what she had just said, one of the main things really was we would meet on the legislative things every month and be right on top of that. And the short-term rental issue would have been something we were on for a whole year before we missed it here in the city, and suddenly it becomes a federal or state law that affected us and hurt us. So you want things to happen that you want to happen, not necessarily that the state wants to happen. So the correct decision is at least something we voted on and made a decision to have. So I'd just like you to think about reintroducing that and putting that on a future agenda. Okay? Thank you.
Good evening. Peter Sauchin, 1206 Gulf Boulevard. Congratulations to the new commissioners. Welcome change. I wanted to, comment on the traffic situation that's been caused by the new opening of the new stop and go at 5th and the Boulevard. I don't know if this has come up already, but it's creating, especially now, a bit of chaos. People going in and out and crossing, making left turns from the boulevard into the station. It's a double. As far as I know, you shouldn't make a left turn when there's a double yellow line. So folks are making left turns from the boulevard into the station and around. So I'm just alerting you all to, talk to the traffic police or the folks involved that some new signage or clear signage that should be posted to help sort that out. It's getting a little chaotic, and even in the off season, I think people are making wrong left turns, etc. So, thank you for your attention.
Thank you. Does anybody else want to come up and speak? Okay. Thank you for the comments today. We've written the notes down. We will take them back and definitely discuss them. At this particular point in time, I'm going to close the neighbors' comments. And and ask for the report of the city manager.
Thank you, Mayor. Mayor and Commissioner, I just have 2 items. One is that the city has begun working with Park Mobile on an implementation plan for our paid parking program, pilot paid parking program at the beach access points. We have another meeting with them tomorrow. But I wanted to bring this up because we are starting now to talk about dates, go live date. Our goal is to have the paid parking program up and running May 18th. So it's a week before Memorial Day. That gives us time for signage installation, gives us a time to continue our communication efforts, putting some yard signs out at the beach access points, alerting visitors that the paid parking program will be coming in May. We'll be able to create a web page on our website, landing spot for people to understand the paid parking program, the intent behind it. And it'll also allow us to do an assessment of our neighborhoods to determine where we need to look at putting no parking signs in anticipation of people not parking at the access points and trying to park elsewhere. And really, during the pilot program, we understand that it's something that we're just going to have to continually be assessing on a weekly basis. But we're going to go out and do an audit and assessment and look at that. So May 18th is the targeted date. Park Mobile knows that, and we'll be working towards that. The other is just continue to invite the community. Once a month, we meet with the community here at City Hall, coffee, breakfast, light breakfast. We have an open house this Friday at 8:30, and just like to welcome all the community to come. It's generally just, come and meet myself and staff. If you have any questions, concerns, comments, I just love the opportunity to continue to engage with our community, and I appreciate all those that have come, and hope to see everybody there this Friday. Thank you.
Thank you, Ryan. Ryan, one quick question with the Park Mobile. When we continue this test, we're going to go on ahead and kind of order some no parking signs and have those ready for a speedy response?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Yes, sir. We'll look at additional signage beyond just the Park Mobile signage, additional signage as to alerting the community that this isn't a beach parking spot elsewhere in the city, and then no parking signs that you already see on some of our streets, but determine where those actually need to go. Staff already has an idea of where those need to go, so we're going to mobilize on that prior to May 18th.
Okay. Thank you.
Just a quick question, will that be a discussion item for a city meeting where we would put additional parking signs? I know I've just seen a lot of residents that have concern about where they are today that prevent them from actually parking in front of their own houses when they don't have enough driveway space. So I think that's something that we might want to discuss.
No, that's a great question, Commissioner, and certainly we can add that to the agenda. We can look at putting that on the April agenda. We can kind of just highlight where those no parking signs are currently. And again, staff has an idea of where they need to, just from experience and where we've seen people park. We want to kind of get out ahead of it prior to the paid parking program starting. But I'm certainly able to put that on the agenda for discussion in April.
I would just add to that comment as well, that I don't know if we would include the parks during that conversation as well. We get a lot of, at Brown Park, we get a lot of beach parkers there. And I don't know if we want to look at that and extend the conversation around the parking at the parks.
Thank you, Commissioner. We'll have, and again, reminder too, that the pilot program was focused on the beach access points, and then look at expanding paid parking elsewhere throughout the city. But I also understand that, it was mentioned during the conversation about spillover parking, trying to get out ahead of that prior to the 6 months coming up. So we'll include that as part of the discussion at the April meeting, and then mobilize from there.
Thank you.
Any other questions for this evening? Okay. Thank you again, Ryan. The next, we're actually going to reach out to the city commission, excuse me, and ask each one of, I don't know if there's a traditional order we follow when they talk. I guess we'll start with the left and go right, and next time we'll start with the right and go left. How about that? One thing I would like to say about when the city commission speaks, in reading the literature, if you guys have something you want to add to the agenda, I don't know if this was communicated before, but if you guys have talked to one of our citizens, you have something you want to add to the agenda, we can actually do it during this 3 minutes through a consent process. And but exactly like you did, Hillary, a few minutes ago. So with that, I'm going to hand it over to Commissioner Watt.
Thank you, Mayor. So I would just like to say I am thrilled and honored to be a new commissioner. I'm so excited to be here. As I've talked to residents in the community, I can really feel the energy and the excitement, and so it's a very exciting times for us. And I know as we come together as a community and we move forward, we can put all of our heads together because we have so much brain power in this community, and we can accomplish what's in front of us and really help this community to thrive. So I'm very excited. I know there are good things ahead of us. One resident said to me, "It's a new day," and I am so excited to be part of it. Thank you.
Commissioner Bigelow.
Well, the first thing I'd like to say is welcome Kelly Watt and Mayor Lamb to our commission for the city of Indian Ox Beach. Some of the things that I have been working on that I would like for a discussion item is I've been in contact with Greg Stewart. He is the law firm that was responsible for the Volusia County Flagler ordinance verbiage. We're going to be opening up the ordinance so that we can continue to make the ordinance stronger than it already is. We're not going to be talking about the logistics of it tonight, but it's going to help our community in the long run. Some of the other issues that we're going to have room for discussion items with the commission is the raising the registration fee. Right now we're at $450 a year. Cocoa Beach charges $2,500 a year. So we need to be up around, my magic number is $1,000 a year for single family residents in Indian Ox Beach if they want to register their properties. This will be room for discussion with everybody. We still seem to be having golf cart issues with minors. For some reason, it's gotten pretty bad on the harbor drives recently, but the beach is more crowded now than it normally is. So another area for discussion is the sheriff has put out flyers in regards to the golf carts, what's allowed, what's not allowed, but they're being ignored. You can tell. We have to get with the property managers of the short-term rentals and the golf cart rental companies to make sure that there's some kind of signage or something with the golf cart at all times in regard to minors. There's also about enforcing occupancy levels. There's a lot of room for discussion on that, on finding out how many people are within these properties, because they all abuse it. The managers, they'll address it if it's an issue right out of the gate, but it's always happening. The other thing is a lot of these short-term rentals, as far as the registration goes, if one property owner owns a duplex or a triplex, even though they each have individual units, such as A, B, and C, do they have to pay registration for that one piece of property, or are they paying it for three? Yeah, I think that's a question that would be for a city manager. But that's something we can discuss later. So these are some of the things that I'm working on and going to move forward with the new commission that we have and the existing commission. And all this is going to do is strengthen the city, because we have a really good chance to do it right now. In my particular case, I got 1 year to do it. Hopefully, it'll be a little bit longer after March. So, anyway, that's pretty much what I got to contribute. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Fisher. Commissioner Wilson.
Okay, first off, I'd like to thank Rotary for a fun run on the beach. And even though I missed it, I wasn't in town for the pancakes, they were great, and Green Fest was a good time. Coming up, we've got the Easter egg hunt. I know IRB Homes would love to have a few more Easter egg hunt helpers this Saturday morning. And also, Taste of IRB is coming up April 25th. And I know the volunteer sign-up sheets are out in several of the Facebook pages. The event's April 25th, 3 to 9 p.m., so get out there and sign up. Another, I'd like to add to a little bit about what Representative Burfield talked about, and first off, a shout out to how much I'd like to thank her to listening to the 300 plus, according to Haley, emails that were sent, and she had Haley get a hold of me and say, is this for real? And I said, oh yeah, it's for real. A shout out to John Fansteel for when I said, hey, circle those wagons, we need some emails sent. Huge shout out that I'm sure helped solidify what Representative Burfield did. And when I heard that all of the rumblings going back and forth, and our lovely people at Suncoast League of Cities were in on it too, and that ADU language not only went with what the Senate was proposing of at least 30 days, but it just disappeared. It was definitely a wonderful moment. So a great example of how everybody pulling together can make something happen. So.
Thank you, Commissioner Wilson. Commissioner King?
Thanks. So I have two things. So first, last regular commission meeting, I know we had a lot of other things in between the last regular city meeting and now, but we did approve a variance for a single family home to exceed the building height of 35 feet. So we approved a 39 foot. Well, you know, personally, what I voted no for that, I didn't feel like there was a real determination of hardship there. However, it was based on an antiquated set of code that we have that apparently had not been modified since 1987, so it may have been original. And it based on how we measure, what's our measuring point. So that begs the question for me, well, what else is in there for land use and particularly planning and zoning that we should be revisiting? So I'd like to propose that we add that either as a workshop item, as a separate agenda topic, however we want to do that, reconsider our code, taking a look at it, being very prescriptive, especially around our land use, our floodplain management, and our planning and zoning. And I think really the urgency to get ahead of that before we lose any more of our local control or what we can do is very, very urgent. And consider that we've had how many presentations from Forward Pinellas and the idea that we are considering potentially implementing some kind of mixed use or other to help our businesses repopulate. I think it's really urgent that we do that because we all want to keep our small town charm, yet we have not defined what that means in terms of what we will and will not allow for building. So if we could add that to an agenda topic.
Commissioner King, I'm in
Not
favor.
today,
Well, it would be a future agenda
Yeah, future
item.
agenda item.
May I proceed? Is the commission I'm in favor, but is the commission in favor of perhaps putting this on our April 1st agenda?
Yes, I am.
Sure.
Yep, I approve.
Okay.
Obviously I am.
All right. Please continue. I did not mean to
No,
interrupt
that's
you.
fine. I was done with that topic. So, but this leads to the second one. So I've been now a year in this commission spot, and I honestly feel like a lot of it was treading water, and it's nobody's fault. We had a lot of interruptions. We lost our city manager, we lost our city attorney, so that was all good work that we did. I mean, look at the results, it's awesome. So time well spent here. However, a lot of the things that we've had on docket, probably for years prior to this, we have not accomplished. We had hurricane interruption, we had this year of hiring, 2 key positions. So we haven't really addressed a lot of things, and you can feel the energy in the commission. We want to get things done. We want to be moving forward and not dwelling in some of our past experiences. So I think it's really important that we consider, and I really don't like the idea of this in general because I know how people feel about meetings, but I really believe it would be a purposeful thing for us to propose 2 meetings a month rather than 1. I feel like we get 1 meeting and then a month goes by and we sort of forget what we did, in the last meeting. I think just to keep the momentum rolling, I would like to see us really go to a 2 meeting a month.
Good. Okay, so may I take your idea and present it to the commission?
Please.
Should we at least put this on the agenda item and talk about possibly 2 meetings a month to make them shorter, more in tune? But we need to talk with the city manager on this as well.
Sure, if I can jump in, because as we head into budget season, we are going to have more meetings on our agenda as we typically, or more meetings on our calendar as we typically do. I think that would be a good opportunity to test it as we have those budget meetings to include other items that this commission would want to take on to see what that would look like. Because then it essentially almost becomes a two meeting a month during budget season, and kind of play around with that idea. But that's just an idea. We can certainly flesh it out in another meeting and talk about it more. But that is an idea that, in talking with Commissioner King, knowing that we have these meetings coming up, we can kind of test it by putting some items on there.
And when does the budget, I was trying to remember the calendar, is it April or May?
So we're gonna start meeting fairly soon. We're gonna start adding some additional meetings on the calendar. And Lauren actually may have, not to put her on the spot, but she may have a calendar of
They're
meetings.
in your book, Lauren, you provided.
Yes, I don't have the book with me right now, but yes, you all have I gave each one of you a calendar of, yes.
I just say that's just agreeing with you, it's right around the corner, so that.
Well, I would suggest at this time, because we do have those double meetings come up, that we try it for that. I think adding in a second meeting right now, probably some of us already have our schedules for the next month or 2 met it out. So I would think that would be a great opportunity. But I believe it's July, August, and September that we're kind of doubled up anyway.
Would that satisfy your temporary needs?
Yeah, but I think as we talk through the items that we're adding to next month's agenda, we're going to find that there's work that needs to be done. So whether that means we have a special session or not, I think we're going to end up there before, sooner rather than later.
And my goal would be that we would do it temporarily, and that as we start working down our list with the previous board, we do have a lot of work to do. I do agree with that.
Yep. It's all good work.
Shall we put it on the agenda for April and just discuss it further briefly?
I would just add, I think, just to your points, that probably some room for some workshops in there. I think some of us, some of the things maybe kind of be worked out, like you're just saying, Lori. And so it may not be a formal meeting, but maybe some workshops that can help us as well.
And I love the city manager's idea but let's talk about it on the next agenda.
So what we'll do, we'll add an item on the next agenda where we look at the calendar for the rest of this year and then talk about that and then figure out where would be appropriate to either add meetings or then start talking about 2027, adding 2 meetings a month.
I just wanted to make a comment about it. I would rather have 1 long meeting. 2 short meetings. I've been a city commissioner for 26 months, and when that one commission meeting was heading towards midnight, that was quite a bit. And I've seen the short meetings that have lasted for maybe 20 minutes, 30 minutes. And I think there was more of those than there wasn't. So I can see the meetings can only be so long with public comment and everything like that. So I'd rather just have 1 long one and just knock it out. So that's my opinion.
Well,
We can talk about it.
Let's talk about that on April. I guess that leaves me. First of all, I'm completely humbled to be sitting in this seat with everybody's support and everything. I did run on open and collaborative government. You're going to see a lot of changes. I've already had a meeting with Ryan before I even was sworn in, and I can tell you I've probably been on the phone with Ryan and Lauren more times than I have my wife over the past week. So, again, I am excited. We have a lot to do. As far as I'm concerned, you are the citizens. We're going to listen to you. We're going to try and accommodate each and every one of you. And I wrote down something, if I could ever find it, in the pile of memos that I had, but it will have to come later, I'm afraid. Here it is. We will enforce the will of the majority. That's enforce the will of the majority while protecting the rights of the minority. And you're going to see STR enforcement come into play. You're going to see parking enforcement come into play, but we're always going to listen to you and move forward with what we think is the best to keep our small Indian Rocks Beach town a quaint Indian Rocks Beach town. And I guarantee you, in 5 years, when all the cities have grown up around us, we will be sought after by the droves. And we are now. With that, Commissioner Wilson, hats off to you. You stole my thunder.
Good.
Had a great time with the breakfast. Ended up going to the Rotary breakfast. I'm hoarse today because of it. Ended up going to Greenfest. Talked to all the wonderful booths. Thoroughly enjoyed it. Had the opportunity to meet our city manager, walking as well, involved in the community, and that just brightened my heart as well. So thank you. Easter egg hunt. I'll be there at the crack of dawn. They are still looking for a few volunteers. It is a great thing. And hey, if you don't want to volunteer, bring your children or your grandchildren or your great-grandchildren. We're going to bring the community back, and this is a community event, and we want all the families to come and enjoy. Heck, if you don't have children, come and have some popcorn anyway. Okay. Again, thank you. So let's move to the next agenda item. Work session items. Okay. Lauren and Ryan have done a lot of work on our agenda. One thing we're trying to do is make it more efficient. I think the term he used is allow us prime time for prime time. So what we've done is we have made a consent agenda and put everything in it which is the normal state of city business. And would you like to kind of ad-lib to that? You're much more eloquent than I would be on this.
Thank you, Mayor and Commission. No, I just welcome the opportunity to be given the leeway to work with our city secretary on the agenda and putting the agenda kind of into different buckets. I think if you go back and you look at previous agenda, you'll see a number of different sections. I always felt that there were too many sections, and so really generally having ideas or having sections like work session item, which we'll have Mr. Gomez present on the legislative update, and then consent agenda, and then items for individual consideration. Just allows the agenda to flow in kind of a natural rhythm. But obviously, when things are on consent, they can be pulled for discussion. Really, we're trying to move forward on contracts, trying to move forward on operational things, and you'll see on this consent agenda there are just items that go towards that. Items for individual consideration, there'll be public hearings on there. There'll be items that require that kind of debate and discernment and deliberation. And so, but every item on this agenda can elicit conversation, feedback, all of that. the idea was just to get it to flow in a natural rhythm. And so I appreciate the opportunity to work with the city secretary on doing that. And just wanted to take the opportunity to mention that. So thank you, Mayor and Commission.
Okay, so what we have is we have a consent agenda here. Assuming that everybody's read through it, does anybody have any questions with the items?
H and J, I was hoping we could have.
Yeah, sorry, Mayor and Commission, we do have one item on the work session, legislative update, just before we get to the consent. So just wanted to mention that. Mr. Gomez has a presentation.
Please go on ahead. Who would?
Yes, I'll turn it over to Administrative Director Robin Gomez, who's become our, along with Commissioner Wilson, our legislative guru for the city of Indian Rocks Beach. So with that, Mr. Gomez.
Thank you, Ryan, and good evening, Mayor, Commission. Just to give you a quick overview of the legislative processes and what happened, really pertaining to our more so financial than actual, really any of the other items, such as what Representative Burfield stated. But and I think many of you saw there was considerable media coverage, obviously, regarding property taxes and what did not happen at the legislature. But so everyone is aware, and again, the media covered a lot. They're still working on a state budget. Looks like there's a few versions out there between the governor, the Senate, and the House, and so they'll work that way through. Whether they have a special they'll have a special session sometime in April. I don't believe it's been called, but Representative Bearfield would know better than I. Don't think it's been called just yet. There has been a special session called for redistricting, and that'll, I guess, set to begin on April the 24th. I had previously provided most of this presentation in January, mainly regarding the proposed changes to property taxes. As I'm sure most of you are aware, none of the items are actually on the governor's desk to be signed, so therefore they, at this point, possibly a special session will be called to address. But there was one bill that did pass the House, but none of them passed the Senate. And I'll go through these kind of quickly. Again, we went through these in January, but there were, of the 8 bills, really, House Joint Resolution 203 is the one that gradual elimination of the property tax for all taxing authorities except for schools. That one was adopted, and again, the Senate did not adopt it, so what remains to be seen what will happen. If eventually there is some sort of resolution that goes to the governor, or the governor signs it, then based on certain time limits, it could end up in time for the November 2026 election for a referendum vote. As I had previously shared, had that item would, if adopted by voters, at least 60% of approval, then it would impact our general fund revenue. As the Pinellas County Property Appraiser, they still have a website out there where anybody can pull up this information that is on the screen. This would be the impact to our future budget, an approximate 25% reduction in our property taxes. Again, the other proposals did not progress forward. I'm sure whether they come back or not remains to be seen. So where do we go from here? Really a lot of, and I'll address a few other bills regarding some of this, but the reality is really to continue to tell our story. What are property taxes? How are they determined? Where do they come from? What do we spend it on? And really we will be adding more information on our website in addition to these presentations. Good to speak to civic community groups, to residents. Certainly anybody ever has any questions about what is it, what's a millage rate, how are my taxes determined, certainly please feel free to call us. We'd be happy to share that. A lot of these slides, again, are repetitive as to how are the millage rates or the taxes set. There are multiple taxing authorities or governments. We heard from the Pinellas Suncoast Fire Rescue earlier about their process. This is an actual from the Pinellas County Tax Collector's Office and the Property Appraiser, showing all the taxing authorities what the tax rates are. And as I've shared before, here in Indian Rocks Beach, about 11 cents out of every dollar that every property owner pays comes to the city. You can see the majority goes to the schools, then the county, and then about the same percentage that goes to the other special districts Southwest Florida Water Management District, Pinellas Suncoast Transit Authority, etc. This is an actual property tax bill. Again, I know it's kind of small text from a distance, but shows what our 1.73 mils out of the total of 15.8672, again, about 11% of everyone's property tax bill. Again, this slide just shows what the impact should the reduction and eliminating the property taxes on everything except schools. This is what the reduction would yield in an actual, again, tax bill here in Indian Rocks Beach. Several questions that have come out are, well, here in our city, what is the percentage of homestead versus non-homestead? This slide shows that a significant majority of our properties are not homesteaded. Therefore, any changes to the property taxes would not impact non-homesteaded properties. The changes are, and have been, the changes proposed have been specifically for properties that are homesteaded. Again, homesteaded properties are those where a person has, or people have title to the property and make it as their primary residence. A lot of this data, as I've stated, that is currently on our website, but it is in our budget document for the current year and for prior years that are on the city's website. This slide that shows the collections, the millage rate for the current year and the prior 5 years, and again showing the changes from the increases from one year to the other. And again, property taxes increase when assessed values increase or the taxing authority increases their millage rate. As this slide shows, Indian Rocks Beach has actually lowered their millage rate over the last few years. What are the taxes used for? Again, just to recap, administration, to pay for employee salaries, obviously our public safety, our law enforcement, and you can see the two largest buckets go toward our law enforcement, our contract with the Sheriff's Office, and also obviously for our public works operations. This slide just shows by category all of our general fund revenues for the current year and the prior years. Again, all of this is available on the website. This is a pie chart showing the importance of property taxes. They do comprise 62% of the money that the city receives, again, to provide the general fund services that I've stated. This chart simply shows the expenses, and again, we do spend the largest percentage on law enforcement, followed by public works, and a pie chart showing the expenses as well. A few other bills, House Bill 1329, Senate Bill 1566, local government spending. This was adopted, titled the Local Government Financial Transparency and Accountability Act. This will require cities and counties to publish their budgets in searchable format. You have to include salaries, travel expenses, publish a budget calendar. Some of this, the city already does some of this. There's another component of it, the second from the bottom, is a budget reduction exercise. We will, in a future workshop, we will have to go through an exercise. What would our budget look like with a 10% reduction? Does not mean that we have to adopt that. It means we have to go through that exercise, which is a good exercise. In the nearly 32 years I've been in local government, that's most of the time that's been an exercise and worthwhile to do that. And we have to publish all of our budget amendments. There's some impact fee regulations that are listed in this bill. And again, the effective date would be January 1 of the upcoming calendar year, and it is awaiting the government's signature. This is what a 10% reduction currently would look like. This is our total city budget by fund, starting with the general, SW, solid waste, capital, etc. You can see what our 10% of the total city budget would be, $789,000. And again, the law enforcement, whether we have to include law enforcement, I'm not sure. The bill, I think I need to read more about the bill, but do you include that or exclude that? We're not allowed to reduce our law enforcement budget, the expenditures, but whether you have to include that, I included it on here because I'm under the inference that that's likely your total budget to perform the 10% reduction exercise. This slide just shows some of the information that is currently on our budget. These are links. You can obviously pull the current year's budget, a couple of the annual comprehensive financial reports, and the budget calendar that generated the current year's budget, and we have budgets going back to fiscal 2023. We will have them going back even a few more years. On the lower half of this slide, it's a snapshot from our current budget. Again, shows the salaries, which again is part of the bill. So Indian Rocks Beach, I think, has done a great job of really putting valuable and pertinent information in their budget. All the people who have been here for years, and certainly I'm sure the commission has supported that, and we will continue to do that and make it in an easier, searchable format. Other bill that was proposed but did not proceed, eliminating the local business tax. It's, while not a gigantic source of revenue for the city, we collect a little over $30,000. It really impacts larger cities, but again, it's just another revenue that cities can use to provide the basic services. It did not go forward. Oh, I'm sorry. Here's the revenue that we had collected through last year, $28,000, and then in the prior years. Again, not a gigantic source of revenue, but it's proceeding. Since we've been discussing parking, there was another bill proposed that would cause parking to be rather, I can't even think of the word, because you would have to wait 2 hours to issue a parking citation. I'm not using the other words. You would have to wait 12 hours to tow a car if they had not paid. And cities would not be able to lease any city property to a private entity to utilize as parking. We would also be required, once we have paid parking, if somebody paid, for example, for 4 hours, but they left after 2 hours, then we would either have to refund them the 2 unused hours or apply as a credit to the next vehicle that pulled into the space. So very difficult to have an actual paid parking program should this one have gone forward. It would be difficult to properly manage a parking program that would fail. Claims against the government, the House bill, this is commonly known as sovereign immunity. Cities are limited as to in a tort or injury suits against the city. You're limited to paying $200,000 to an individual or $300,000 per incident. These will increase effective October 1, 2026 to $500,000 per person and up to $1 million per incident. Any additional monetary damages would require, or currently require, and would require the individuals to solicit the help of the state representative and to propose a bill that would then pay the difference from these claims. So, and then in 5 years, those would increase to $600,000 and to one per individual and $1.2 million per incident. So those were kind of the main sort of financial related bills that could have impacted us. And I do want to point out, as Vice Mayor Commissioner Wilson has stated, that between the Suncoast League of Cities and the Florida League of Cities really did a tremendous job, as well as Vice Mayor Commissioner, in communicating with representatives, with senators, and providing them the information of the importance of cities keeping revenues as well as counties. So we will continue to tell the story, continue to put information and data to be transparent. The decisions, our city commission makes those decisions. I think most of our residents, property owners would like the commission to make those decisions, with all due respect, rather than in Tallahassee, but Tallahassee can work on certainly quite a few other things, and certainly a lot of the state matters, but certainly for cities and smaller cities, it's important that residents and property owners and businesses work with their city staff and commission to make those decisions. But again, it's important to have the revenue to provide those services, and it is important that those services, again, be provided as efficient and effective as possible. In a prior life, I did spend some time as an internal auditor, and believe me, that's what we're doing here. And so we want to be as efficient, as effective as possible, and that's our goal. So again, thank you, and certainly any questions at any point in time by anybody or Mayor and Commission, please.
Yeah, I'm just curious about the definition of searchable for the budget. Does this mean like an interactive database, or can it just be a PDF file that you can search for a term?
They simply stated just a searchable database, how easy would be able, I imagine hyperlinks and something that's not overly expensive. I've already been contacted by several firms that provide great, but it comes with a fee. But certainly that's what, a little bit, the language in some of the bills don't provide a significant amount of details, but the reality is that the goal is to make sure that anyone can just go to our website, be able to type in a search, and it would bring up the information that they're looking for.
Thank you, Robin. Back to the consent agenda, if there is one of the items on here that you had a question about, you can actually pull that one or two items and bring it up for discussion and then kind of get rid of the majority of the business. I open it up to the commission for their input and direction.
I still have questions on H, and J was something I haven't seen before, so I just have a couple small questions on that.
Okay.
We just ask for you to, if you could do it in the form of a motion to pull those items,
Okay.
then we'll need to vote on that since we'll be technically amending the agenda.
I move to remove items H and J from the consent agenda and move them to paragraph 9 under items for individual consideration.
Second.
Okay. All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, the ayes.
And then,
so we need somebody to do a motion to accept all agenda items with the exception of H and J.
yeah, all consent agenda items,
All consent
excluding H and J.
I make a motion to accept all consent agenda items with the exception of item H and item J.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Commissioner King, I vote aye, right?
Yes, I'm sorry.
Okay, so the item number 8, consent agenda A through G, I actually passes, and we are opening the floor to item number H of the consent agenda, so the audience knows what we're talking about. The title of it is Authorize the City Manager to Enter into a Service Agreement with Citizen Serve for software to manage short-term rentals, inspections, and code enforcement. And this is by Ryan, so I'm going to let him do a little bit of...
Thank you, Mayor and Commission. Then we'll certainly take questions from Commissioner King and anybody else that has any questions. So one of the first things I wanted to do when I got here was really look at our systems and look at, what are ways that we can, for lack of a better phrase, modernize our operations and how we do things. Our code officers, our code department works extremely hard. But I noticed right away that they did not have the tools necessary to keep up with our code enforcement issues, primarily short-term rental and short-term rental registrations. Right now, our code department uses spreadsheets to track everything. They use an antiquated system that actually predates most of our time here and goes back to the building department when there was a building department. And so I tasked staff to look at different systems, different softwares that are out there. We talked to a couple different vendors and we came back with CitizenServe. CitizenServe works with a number of communities in Pinellas County. They work with the city of Seminole. And after meeting with them, we determined that they had a system, cloud-based software that would meet our needs in terms of holistically tracking all of our code enforcement issues, primarily short-term rental and its registrations. So the idea is to move from spreadsheets and an antiquated system to a cloud-based system where we can readily track everything, we can compute everything. If you've gone to special magistrates, you hear oftentimes a complaint from folks that say, well, I wish I was notified that my rental registration was up. This is the software that would allow us to automatically send out those notifications that within 30 days your registration is due. Things like that, things that are moving how we operate in our operations into into this era and how we deal with certain things. So this agreement before you is for consideration. It's to enter into a contract. It would take about a month and a half to get up and running. We'll work as fast as possible. We have an IT consultant that has experience mobilizing citizen serve into communities, and so we would utilize that expertise. I thank our code department for looking into this, working on this, and I think it's certainly worth consideration approving this agreement. Happy to answer any questions, and I know we've got staff here that would also be able to answer any questions too. Thank you.
Yeah, I guess I could
Please,
start. Yeah,
please.
I think others
Commissioner
have.
King.
Yeah, so I mean, I really appreciate modernization. Most of us have worked in industries where we've had to go through that, and it's sometimes painful, especially if you're reliant on either, spreadsheets, that's really very basic, or antiquated systems, which are not really trustworthy. So I'm not objecting to this at all. I think just a couple questions, and maybe I didn't realize this the first time that I discussed it with you, Mr. Henderson. So I believe that it would be more than just short-term rental registration management. And so, but I think what we're talking about here is specifically that. So can we understand what this would do in addition to managing the rental registrations, notifications, et cetera?
Sure. It would continue to track just timelines, deadlines. So if you cite somebody and you give them a cure period, it's able to go into that system. It's able to alert us to when that cure period is up. It allows us to search for previous code cases so they become historical in many ways, right? So we can determine, has this property experienced tall grass in the past, right? And what was the timeliness in curing that issue? So it goes into all of our code issues. Primarily, we are focused on short-term rentals, right? But this opens up everything just to allowing us one system, one software to put all of our code issues in, be able to track it, monitor it, and assure compliance.
And I'm assuming, there's a requirement on our part. I was reading in the service agreement that we're required to provide some coding for their system to be able to ingest our data. And I'm assuming that we're going to outsource that to our IT professional, Matt.
Yes, Commissioner. We've worked with our IT professional, Matt. I don't know if many of you have met. He kind of works behind the scenes, but he's incredibly important to our operations. Again, he's very familiar with this, assured us that he would be able to get this up and running for us and work with our staff and be able to answer any kind of questions that we have. Just to go back to your question too, Commissioner, when it comes to just other things that we'd be able to do, it's business licensing. We're going to be able to track contractor licensing, planning and zoning items as they come up, and as we start talking maybe more about some of those things, we'll all be able to track through Citizen Serve. So what I would like to do actually when we, as we get it up and running, come and present it to you, kind of just show the community this is how we're going to utilize this and what we're going to do with it, so everybody has an understanding too. I think that would be beneficial. As we get proficient in it, we'd like to show it off as well.
At some point, are we planning to replace the BDMS or?
This would do it.
Okay.
This would get rid
That
of it.
wasn't clear when I was looking at some of the write-ups that we have several different sources of truth, if you will, and BDMS being outdated software, and at what point do we keep bolting on, or do we just eliminate something?
Yeah, no, absolutely. The idea is to get rid of that and to move into the 21st century.
I won't say the future, but into the present. So one last question, and it's really budget related. As we propose items like this, and there's a couple of them here in this agenda, and I didn't see any in the consent agenda since we moved the contracts down. But I know we're asking to move items, so that's perfectly within the purview of a city commission meeting. But then the question is, where is that money coming from? So we're supplementing one line item. What are we decrementing?
I can ask Rob to answer that.
I mean, really just looking, in the end, where it's each department budget, we're just really looking at line items that will not be utilized for the entire year and then reallocating them to this purchase or other purchases. This item in particular also, we expect the revenue likely to be a little bit higher. But in terms of adjusting your expenditures, you can't really say that this will be covered by additional revenue. You still need to amend and adjust the expenditures, but that's all we're doing is moving among and between the line items.
Okay. Yeah, I think it would be helpful for future considerations if we have a little bit more detail around how we're shifting things within the budget. That would be helpful.
Noted, thanks.
Just to, hold on.
Commissioner
Hillary's
Wong.
question.
Are you
No,
done?
I'm done.
Okay, Commissioner Wong.
I was just going to add on to Hillary's question. Are those the items outlined on page 2 of the presentation? So are those the budget items that you'd be moving?
Yes.
And then for the regular salaries under the finance department, I wonder if that's a pretty big number as well. Right?
So, yeah, there's savings in there because you did not have a director in that role at the beginning of this fiscal year.
Okay. I have a couple more questions.
Yes, please.
So, okay. So I did have a question on what other vendors we looked at and how they compared. I know we landed on this one as a recommendation, but I was wondering what else was reviewed.
Yeah, I could ask Mike if you could.
I don't have that information with me. We spoke with 2 other vendors, talking with IT Matt. He said 100% go with CitizenServe. He implemented CitizenServe into Seminole, City of Seminole. We also had BDMS, and I was more impressed with CitizenServe than anybody else I talked to, and with Matt's recommendation, that's what we recommended.
And Matt's our IT.
Matt, yes, excuse me, sorry, Matt. Yeah, we have a lot of Matts. We have a lot of Matts that work here. Matt Sabella, he is our IT consultant. He's been with the city for a number of years.
And so will he be, I see a lot of information about the migration and getting the data ready, so is that what he'll be working on?
He'll be the project manager on this.
Okay, and then is he also the SME as well?
I'm sorry, what is?
The statement of work called for subject matter expert identified as well as.
Well, he would be the subject matter expert when it came to the migration, but in terms of it meeting the needs of our department, making sure that all the boxes are checked off when it came down to making sure that it meets the code compliance issue that we face, it would be our staff.
Okay. I did have one other question. Software doesn't do everything, right? So do you foresee any gaps that we might have to supplement with this program that we know of at this point?
Well, I would say that the software is really it's going to be for tracking purposes. So it allows us just to track things more cleanly, allows us to have date certain actions that we need to complete. But at the end of the day, it's going to be boots on the ground going out there, right? I mean, we're still going to be doing inspections. We're still going to be doing all of our code enforcement activity. I failed to mention this earlier, but certainly most people are familiar with our use of Granicus and how we use Granicus. We still use Granicus. It's just a different type of tool that we utilize, but similar to Granicus when it alerts us to activity at certain properties that may constitute a short-term rental, we have to go out and verify it. So this is an operational administrative tool that just streamlines our operations and allows our staff ostensibly to focus on the bigger things out there in the community.
It'll also help, if I may, Mayor, apologize. It'll also help with preparation for our office doing prosecution because all the data for the cases will be accessible in the cloud immediately, and it'll help us prepare for the hearings and then also for follow-up enforcement when we don't get compliance after the orders. It'll help us be able to help staff track that, but then take enforcement action a little faster.
Thank you.
Any other questions, Commissioner Watt?
I got a question.
Okay.
What is the cost of this software? What's it going to cost the city?
So it's a total of $30,900 in the first year. Of that, $16,500 is the one-time cost to get everything migrated over, established, as is listed in the agenda item. And then every year thereafter, it's just per the number of users that we assign, essentially an annual license, currently estimated to be at 14,400.
Do you think it's gonna help the city increase its revenue?
I believe so, particularly as Mr. Henderson stated in the renewals. The renewals are really, this will make it significantly easier and just increase the compliance to increase the revenue.
Okay.
And if I may add, the activity that we have out there right now in collecting fines from our code enforcement operation, that certainly goes more than enough into paying for this. So.
Okay, thank you.
I'm going to speak. I'm not going to ask any questions. Just so the citizens know, if you haven't read the agenda, the integration and implementation of this is $16,500. The contract we're going to sign is predicated on the total first year fees of $30,900, with each additional year fees of $1,440. I'm looking at it like a business. Number one, this system, when I spoke to Ryan, and correct me if I'm wrong, it's not only going to allow us to enforce, to monitor, to record all of the building/short-term rental ordinances, it's also going to have the capability of sending out reminders. Am I correct?
Yes, sir.
So it sends out reminders, which helps us with that renewal fee. And if you recall, when I was running, we have 1,032 STRs that have not paid a renewal fee at a sum of $1.1 million. This is going to pay for itself. Another advocate that I want to point out is that as our commission, we owe it to our associates to give them the tools to succeed. Ryan has vetted this, his team has vetted this. I firmly believe that this will help us accomplish our goal of STR ordinance, follow-up, protection, and the code of ordinance is compliance. And I'm going to support our team in doing that. So with that, I'm going to ask for a motion regarding.
I move we accept the contract.
I beg your pardon?
I move we accept the contract with Weitzman.
I've got a motion from Commissioner Wyatt to accept agenda item 8H.
I second the motion.
I have a second. I'm calling for a vote.
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. We have one more item on the consent agenda, and I'm going to read it so our citizens know where we are. It's to authorize the city manager to renew, extend the participant agreement, comprehensive disaster recovery management consulting service as a part of the Pinellas County Cooperative Agreement to allow for the services to be performed in Order 001 by Tetra Tech Incorporated. And I'm going to defer to Commissioner City Manager Ryan to.
Thank you. Thank you, Mayor and Commission. And I'm actually going to ask that Mr. Gomez and Mr. Sharman take this item, as they've been working very closely with Tetra Tech, our consultant, and FEMA. So with that, I'll turn it over to Mr. Gomez.
Thank you, Ryan. Mayor and Commission, this item is really kind of an after the fact. Post-storm back in October of 2024, the city entered into an agreement with Tetra Tech to provide really the professional and disaster recovery management consulting, specifically to fill out and complete the applications for the FEMA, the Federal Emergency Management Agency, and the Florida Division of Emergency Management, or FDEM, FDEM, so FEMA and FDEM, for the city to eventually be reimbursed for allowed expenses, mainly for debris removal, but other expenses related, such as the insurance deductible, some of the work done in the beach accesses, and some in here expenses that were not covered by the city's insurance. So the city entered into that agreement, which is a piggybacking an agreement from Pinellas County. When I started here a few months ago in looking at the agreements, the county's agreement was a 5-year agreement from 2020 that expired in January of 2025. So I asked Tetra Tech, they immediately provided in January of this year pretty much the same agreement for an additional 5 years that the county approved. That's effective January 2025 through January of 2030. So in other words, we were using a contract that had expired. So this item is simply to approve the continuation of the city's agreement with Tetra Tech piggybacking the county's agreement for the disaster recovery management. As you, I think, may or may not be aware, obviously the city had expenditures for the debris removal and also, as I stated, the insurance deductible that have been submitted to FEMA and FDM for reimbursement. That likely, all of the layers involved in all of the meetings that have been held since October 2024 are still working toward that. We are now, unfortunately, in a little bit of a slowdown because FEMA is part of the partial shutdown. So our next meeting is scheduled for tomorrow. We have also been dealing with multiple subcontractors of FDEM, FDM, to process all of the paperwork, all of the documents that they require to eventually get that all completed.
Could you provide the acronym for FDEM?
FDM?
Florida Department.
Florida Division of Emergency Management.
Yeah. Just so everybody knows.
Yeah, there's two. There's a federal and then a state. For everyone's information, a lot of the FEMA reimbursements do go through the state of Florida, through that Florida Division of Emergency Management.
Thank you.
So we're, in the item, so far, since October 24, that contract expended a little over $33,000. It is, Tetra Tech provided us an estimate that would only an additional approximately not to exceed $9,700 to hopefully get everything approved and the city to be reimbursed as much as FEMA and the Florida Division of Emergency Management will reimburse us, the city, for those expenses.
So they've done a service for us, they've made a lot of money for us, and they're gonna make more for a smaller fee.
Hopefully, yes, that is the ultimate goal and result. And again, just approving something that had previously been approved as the county's contract had expired and they renewed it, and that's what we're asking you to approve, continuing this work.
And they're vetted by the county.
Yes.
Any other questions?
No, I wanted to understand that because I had mistakenly thought that we were just renewing it on 1 year. I didn't realize that the counties had expired also, so that answered my question.
I think just a little bit of with everything, I think with the administration, new administration coming in, it just kind of was available and may not have really checked all the details regarding it.
We'd be piggybacking the Pinellas County.
Right. Yeah, I didn't realize the Pinellas County one had expired a year ago, basically. Thanks.
Okay, I make a motion to authorize the city manager to renew and extend the participation agreement for comprehensive disaster recovery management consulting services as part of the Pinellas County Cooperative Agreement to allow for the services to be performed. Order 001 by Tetra Tech Incorporation. Second.
Okay, I have a first and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Excuse me, Mayor, just one quick item. I just want to thank Mr. Dean Sharman for kind of moving this along in the interim after staff left and then I came in. He's done just a great job continuing.
Dean, a personal thank you.
Thank you.
The next agenda item are individual items for consideration. Resolution number 2026-03, conduct a public hearing, consider discussion, action on a resolution of the City of Indian Rocks Beach, Florida relating to a lot mowing or clearing, providing for approval and endorsement of all assessments as finally fixed and adjusted for 816 First Street, Indian Rocks Beach, Florida, 33785, parcel number 12301459, 832-002-0210. Mike Kelly.
Good evening, Commissioners. This was initiated by multiple drive-bys by the code department after the flood. House was abandoned, along with emails, complaints from neighbors. I personally visited the property in August. It was abandoned, walked the property, posted the door hanger. Visited the property again 3 days later, took some photos, sent an email to the email on file to, the homeowner, no response on that. We did also have a phone number on file for them, no response there, no opportunity to leave a voicemail. Sent a notice of violation on 8/20. The homeowners are in Nottingham, England, so you can imagine how that went. Actually found another phone number on an old permit, tried that one also. Again, no luck. Sent a couple more emails. Finally sent another notice of violation on, 10/29. And send another final warning, registered mail, in November, and posted the property, posting the front yard and the stake as required, and contracted the property to be cleaned up. After that, the bill you probably have, I don't have it in front of me, around $500. Today, had not heard from anybody. Did not get the registered mail back. When they go to Canada and England, it's kind of common. So the posting of the property is pretty much the last hurrah. And that's kind of where we stand today, but it's still empty. Neighbor is now mowing it because it got it down to the point where it was manageable, I guess. So we will continue to track it. Any questions?
No.
No.
Thanks, Mike.
All right, thanks, Commissioners.
Thank you. Do I have a motion to approve?
I'll make a motion that we approve the resolution related to the mowing or clearing of 816 First Street, Indian Rocks Beach.
Do I have a second?
I second the motion.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye, passed. Ordinance number 2026-02. This is near and dear to our heart. It is the first reading to conduct a public hearing to consider the discussion or action on the ordinance of the City of Indian Rocks Beach establishing a neighborhood advisory board, providing for establishment purposes and membership, providing for term of membership, providing for compensation of members, providing for officers, providing for meetings, providing for powers and duties, providing for repealer, severability, codification, and an effective date. And this is sponsored by, again, Ryan Henderson, our city manager.
Thank you, Mayor and Commission. So at the last commission meeting, we had a lengthy discussion on the creation of the Neighbor Advisory Board. The item before you is a first reading. The intent is to have a second reading at the April meeting. The intent is also, as knowing that this is a new iteration of the commission than the one that Laz talked about, establishing the Neighbor Advisory Board, to get input as to, is this the direction that this commission wants to go in creating the Neighbor Advisory Board? But at first reading, in the ordinance, it codifies what we had discussed. That was having a 5 neighbor resident board with an additional 2 members from the business community serving for a total of a 7-member board. And the scope of work would be community-wide initiatives or topics. So you would tell the advisory board, this is what we want you to focus on, this is what we want you to come back to us and advise us on. Commissioner King talked about hurricane recovery, lessons learned, what can we do better. I think that that is entirely appropriate and a good idea as we head into hurricane season and having a community board talk about that. Obviously staff would be involved, staff would present what we learned as a staff, as an organization, and have that conversation, and then come back to the commission with ideas or things to implement. But the idea was then from there it goes on to other items. What are other things that we want this advisory board to take on? So that was the initial idea, and that was what we talked about. So again, and you have the agenda item before you in the memo that stipulates everything that you'll find in the ordinance. Thank you for pulling it up. But I also want, again, knowing that this is a different iteration of the commission that last talked about that, to get your thoughts, to get your opinions, to modify the ordinance as need be prior to a second reading. Also, I do want to settle in on how this commission wants to select its members. If they want to do their own, everybody bring their own individual that they want to appoint to this board. Do you want the city to put out an application for interest in this board? I imagine that we have neighbors that have already talked to you about, say, hey, I'd love to serve on this. This is something that's I'm passionate about. But that's up to this commission. I've always looked at advisory boards as an extension of the commission and the council. Essentially, they're your employees, and they serve at your pleasure, right, to carry out what you want the advisory board to do. So with that, I know we'll have some conversation and discussion. I'll turn it over to the mayor and the commission.
And I'd like to start and then kind of ask y'all's opinion if it's okay. I read this, I saw it. Ryan and I have already talked. I do not know how the other advisory board disappeared or got removed. One thing that we do know is that if we put an ordinance together like this, it's very difficult to remove, and it's very public in the event they do. My suggestion was that we open up one advisory board and we set it up for perpetuity, where it would continue to be, and maybe it would be the lead advisory board and spring out sub-boards later on. That was one of the concepts that I threw out, and I asked Ryan if that was actually conceivable and doable. Another thing, what that would also do is, I firmly believe citizen or neighborhood advisory boards is for the neighbors. I would like to remove the 2 businesses and perhaps do an offshoot of that. We talked about, I don't even know if Indian Rocks Beach has a Chamber of Commerce. When we looked it up, it was in St. Petersburg.
Yes, and I actually confirmed with Robin as he's worked with the chambers, but there's a number of Chamber of Commerce boards in Pinellas County. There's one that serves the beaches, but I don't know if they've had any interaction with businesses here. So
we do value our businesses. We want to bring them in, but they are here to serve our citizens and our tourists. So my advice would be that we would have an offshoot of that or a separate business advisory board for that. As far as the hurricane preparedness, we are behind the ball. Commissioner King, we need to, that's the first thing this advisory board needs to do. So I do feel a sense of urgency on it, but I'm going to open the floor to you and seek y'all's advice and direction.
So I think, first topic, and I'm not sure how we're going to assign topics, but I believe that we are all in agreement that hurricane recovery and, our lessons learned needs to be first and foremost. We're, days away from the next hurricane season, and we got super lucky last year. So I want to rely on luck. I'd like to have a plan. So I think the sense of urgency is really heightened given that, we are fast approaching a need. And even if we get through a recommendation, implementing things take time. So as, you know, people volunteer or we appoint them, making sure they understand that this is not something that's gonna be a year-long activity. It's gonna be real-time, very quick and thorough. I appreciate your comments about the business owners, but I will say for items, you know, I'd be wary of having too many boards because we are so small, and, you know, having people attend regularly and having support from the city staff, it could become overburdensome. And I think, you know, the KISS principle applies here, keep it simple, stupid, like try to keep it very focused. So I would really like to see businesses participate, especially as we consider hurricane recovery. They were so hugely impacted and still are. So I think if we would be remiss in not having their input on what lessons we could have learned or done better in the hurricane specifically.
And I'm not saying not have them, I'm saying maybe have the board, maybe have our board consist of citizens, and then we do an offshoot where they would feed up, or we would feed up, or we could even have a separate non-ordinance oriented advisory board to help with that as well. Just suggestions, but I appreciate your.
No, I understand. So,
Are you done?
I think, you know, there's a lot for us to discuss on setting one up, giving them a time frame for when we'd like to see a final report out and recommendation, and what interim milestones we want to see along the way. I don't know how we'll mechanize that, so I don't know when we would have that discussion. We're not going to codify that in an ordinance.
So, if I may, before we move on, Commissioner and Mayor, if I may, the one area that I need some guidance and direction on before the next meeting is, you know, how the members are appointed, meaning whether you each pick one or not, and then whether those members will be replaced by the topic or stay on and you'll assign topics. I think we can do it either way, but what I envision is when a topic comes up that you want this neighbor advisory board to tackle, we would have that through a debate and then a direction to a resolution, giving them parameters, timing, and topics. That way, it's more fluid and we can change it throughout the year or years, but the actual structure of the board will be codified in the ordinances and kind of be set. I think structurally, appointing a board for a certain term and then assigning topics to that same board is probably logistically a little easier, but I think we can do it either way. So that's, I know that was a question that you asked to me, you know, months ago when we first started talking about it.
Yeah.
So I wanted to, before we moved on, I wanted to bring that up so you had a chance to comment on
And
it.
that might, you know, that kind of maybe kills two birds with one stone, because if we're talking about hurricane recovery, I think the businesses input is really crucial. If we're going to talk about, you know, parks and recreation, I don't know, maybe or maybe not, it's not that crucial. And you might find different people would be more resonant with different topics too.
Well, in terms of codifying an ordinance, if I may, you can maybe just say 7-member board.
Right.
And then depending on the topic, you say, okay, we want 5 neighbors, 2 businesses.
Right.
Or 4 members, 3 businesses, depending on what the topic is.
That makes sense.
So we don't designate one or the other.
And if that's the direction that you want to go, this will be amended before the next
Okay.
meeting as far as the term of membership and how it's structured. And we will leave that to be done on a case-by-case resolution.
Okay.
I do have a, I'm sorry, just while we're talking about the members, so I do like the idea of a 7-member board instead of identifying them. I do want to ask about the terminology though. They've been called citizen advisory boards because they were citizens that were serving on them, and we don't use that language. And so I think we just need to make that decision. Are they residents or do we want them to be citizens? So I think that needs to be determined.
No, and I appreciate it, Commissioner. I mean, the idea of the neighbor advisory board is going towards that long, you know, aim of having, you know, neighbors rather than residents, citizens, customers, what we kind of talked about when I first got here. But, you know, the intent is to have people that live here. When we first were talking about 5 members and then 2 members,
Right, but citizens are different than living here. It's a different, so citizens vote. Right, so they were called citizen advisory boards because they were citizens. So I just want to make sure we're clear on the language, because residents are also citizens, but citizens.
And that's where in the ordinance we can specifically put citizens. I'm going to view it, and I'm going to ask for Matt and Ryan's advice. Ryan's marketing and management, Matt's legal. So if we call it a neighborhood advisory board, do we have to put citizens?
I think if we
want
define
citizens.
I don't think it matters that we call it a neighbor advisory board, but they're in the section of who, how the board is composed, who sits on the board. We can define it there. So I just need direction from the front view of what do you want it to consist of, residents,
I think they should be
business owners and residents.
I think they should be citizens, so I'd like to add that terminology to the member definition. If the board
everybody.
I like neighborhood because if we are asking for, at various times, our business owners, they're not necessarily going to be residents of IRB, but we want their input. So I like that over term of neighborhood, because then we can specify down within that, yeah, we're encompassing them in the big picture.
Right, it wasn't saying we would change the name of the board, but as we define what the members are, I guess I was saying I think the members should be citizens, but maybe you're saying something different.
Okay. May I ask you a procedural question?
Sure.
Could we solicit the gallery?
Yes, this is item for individual consideration, so
Yes.
if anybody would like to speak on this.
I would specifically like for items of individual consideration from citizens. There's a gentleman back there that I would love to hear from.
Come on up, Scott.
Come on up, Scott.
Just to clarify, you're going to open it up for public comment?
I'm opening up for public comment.
All right. I'm just proud we're here. You guys, this is huge. This is huge. After further consideration, I like neighbor. It was citizens forever. I think neighbors a new beginning. So we all want to be neighborly. We all want to be neighbors. I like that. As far as the terms go, 2 years, it's a long term. I mean, that's a long time to ask someone. If you want to match it with your terms, that's new ground for sure. People come and go if they decide. That's why in the past we always had we had some alternates. So you want to have 7, 5 permanent, 2 alternates, or 7 alternates, 7 permanent, 2 alternates. You always have somebody in the background, because if somebody's sick, you want to have quorum. If there's something important, you want to make sure that they can vote, okay? So, then the other thing was the ad hoc committee. So we're going to probably get some ad hoc committees, not necessarily boards, because the environment's important. The beach, the coastal waterway, red tide, preparing for red tide, having a proper plan, not relying on the county like we did last time. And then environmental, there's people that are like, hey, I want to be on the environmental board. So they're going to have a lot of interest. Now, I personally think applications are a good way. You're going to get more people volunteering and wanting to be a part of the city if you solicit applications versus you guys appointing one person. And then, the applications, you might see a huge demand and be like, okay, we got several different boards with a lot of different interests, and that's good. That's what we want. And then you guys can vote on the applications. Every member that's applied would come up and, hi, how you doing? You might not know who they are. It's just a piece of paper. Let them. They can explain why they want to be on the board, and then you guys can vote. Okay, let's vote on this person, let's vote on that person. So that's the way it kind of happened in the past. But I think you're in good hands. I love what you guys are doing so far. I love the street sign thing. I think I'm going to run just for that street sign.
Thank you, Scott.
So
we don't have to agree. Okay, we can follow through what we want. But I think the city manager and the attorney are looking for us to kind of go through this. Oh, hey Kelly, how are you?
Kelly Cicero, 448
448 Harbor Drive South. I served on a special purpose fire district task force, and I would think that that is more akin to the hurricane preparedness goal. You want it to operate quickly, you might want them to meet twice a month or even more frequently. And rather than being on a two-year, 3-year term, the hurricane preparedness seems to be a priority of the commission, as it should be. And I would think that that would be more appropriate to be a task force. And the folks that are on that hurricane preparedness task force may not have the interest in the environmental issues. It might be a totally different task force for that. So I don't know how you can incorporate the neighborly advisory board scenario with a hurricane task force, but I would recommend a task force for the
Well,
hurricane.
that makes sense, thank you. Any other, at this particular time, I'm closing the public comment. Back to the commissioner comments, I guess. What Kelly is saying to me makes sense, is that we do have a sense of urgency. That's why I feel like this needs to happen, is because of the hurricane preparedness. We went through with I'm going to say, with a void in leadership on what we were going to do. We were very blessed. We could easily pull the hurricane preparedness out and form a task force. And then we can focus on the neighborhood advisory board and get that done. Would everybody agree?
Yep.
Yes. Okay. So with that being stated, then let's kind of look at the neighborhood advisory board real quick for their purpose. I like the idea of not designating between business and not designating between citizens. And I also like Scott's idea of adding ad hoc, so we always have a forum. I do like the ability of it being in perpetuity, this particular board, with offshoots to meet the needs of individual needs with the board, with them reporting to the board. And we don't have to get involved in the administration of that, as long as the board presents it to us as a commission. Does that make sense? So predicated on that, I'm still hung up on citizens versus neighbors.
Sorry.
No, and it's me too. I do want to recognize everybody, but I do know that we have to be cautious. But if we open it up to neighbors, and we are the commission that is vetting the applications, then we do not have to make that a criteria, but we can look at that as a criteria. Would that follow protocol, Matt?
I think that's fine. I mean, if you want to put a minimum number of permanent residents, I mean, I think that's what you're getting at when you're saying citizens, permanent residents within the city, and then have other positions, 2 that are open, or 2 plus some alternates that are open. Just want something, and I'm just thinking about other city work I do. We have a library board at another city, an airport authority, and it's hard to get the airport authority filled with people that live in the city, but that have that expertise. So I think you can define a minimum of permanent residents of the city, and then have a total number of board members and a total number of alternates, and then we can, by resolution, pick those individual people. You can set the term. The individual terms, I'd like to put something in there so there is natural turnover or reappointment. If you feel 2 years is too long, we can reduce it to a year, but I wouldn't go shorter than that probably for a board like this.
Okay.
What if we did 4 of the members were the citizens or
Well,
residents?
I'm not even gonna criteria that, I'm gonna let us do that from a board perspective. I'm gonna say, and this is my suggestion, I'm not gonna do this alone by any means. But what I'm suggesting is we say, it is recommended that the Neighborhood Advisory Board has 7 members and 2 ad hoc members. City commission structures as follows. We won't put the structure of 5 citizens in that. We will take applications. This composition is intended to ensure representative for both represented community, local community. This is recognizing the importance of both perspectives. Scope of work. And then it talks about this particular board being a community-wide initiative, and then we can branch off. They report to others, they draw in. We can facilitate that and help it, but we're answering to one group of people.
And then, I'm sorry, do we want to revisit the term? Did you say 1 or 2 years?
I think, I'm thinking, I kind of agree that people get nervous when they're committing to 2 years.
Yeah. 2 feels long.
18 months.
Just
A year and a half.
I would do a year.
Okay.
I think if, to Scott's point, a year might be a little easier commitment.
And they can always come back.
And we all know, that when they volunteer, they're pretty much locked in.
Yeah. Just ask my husband.
Okay.
So we've got applications, we've got 7 members, and we've got 1-year term. What else do you need from us, Matt?
So you don't want to put any requirements for residency in the ordinance, you want to handle that on case by case?
What would the city manager think?
I think having that discretion at your hand is better. Yeah, I think rather than codifying it, you all deciding.
Okay, and we are removing the Neighborhood Advisory Board to be gathered for hurricane response lessons.
Right, that was gonna be my follow-up.
And-
What I'm gonna suggest is that we have a resolution establishing a task force at the next meeting.
Okay.
And
That is separate from the
going-
neighbor advisory board.
And I was gonna get a consensus on that, but it sounds like we have it.
Yes, I think that needs, so you have something that acts fast, you have a board,
Yeah.
you select which members, I mean, and not to get into that, but I think what I'm just going to suggest is each of you bring your own individual that you want to serve on that task force, and we'll establish the task force, the neighbor advisory board in the second reading gets established, and then we'll talk about the application process for that, and then what topics that you all want to take on as they come up.
Fabulous.
I just want to make sure that I get that from everybody, and that's what
Right,
everybody's.
and they could also be people who are on the board too. They
Right.
don't have to be separate.
Right.
We have a limited number of people, so
Yeah.
make sure we're not
Yeah.
having too many.
Absolutely.
And I'm happy to serve on one of those task forces as well, or if I can. I don't know.
Yeah, it'll be a broad resolution, and like a task force, once it's done, goes away.
Okay.
This, like you said, remains in perpetuity.
Okay, good.
Do we have everything for you that you need, Matt?
I just want to confirm, is it 5 members with 2 ad hoc, or 7 members with 2 ad hoc?
7 and 2 alternates?
Okay.
Right. Do we think that's excessive? I do.
You do?
5 and 2.
5 and 2?
Yeah.
I think we're going to have a good response. That's why we.
I think that's great. If we do, we can revisit that. But I hear from Lauren all the time that we have board slots open. We don't advertise them on our website. People may or may not know we have them. So, if you're not coming to the meetings here, you don't know.
Lauren, can we talk about that on another date? I'd love to know how many people we meet. We have a lot of people that love our meeting.
So did you say 5, Hillary, or
5 with 2 alternates.
Okay.
That was my recommendation.
Okay, so what's the consensus of the board? 5 or
I can live with that.
5 with 2 alternates?
I think 5 with 2 alternates is probably better for an advisory board because it is a little more formal and that there'll be public meetings. Task force can be public and non-public and kind of work together and fast. The advisory board's going to vote on something as a recommendation to you. So
And at the end of the
I
day.
think that is to fill the 5 seats and have 2 alternates as backups, just in my experience with other municipalities, I think that that's the right number probably.
So the consensus is 5 and 2. Is there anything else we need to finalize this, and then we'll move on to the next?
This is a first reading of the ordinance, and although we can change the contents of the ordinance as long as we don't change the purpose of the ordinance.
Okay.
So I just
Would you
ask.
like me to read it
A
then?
motion for the ordinance?
I think we already did the reading. It was combined within what you read earlier.
Yes.
So I would ask that you entertain a motion.
I'll make a motion that we approve the first reading of a public hearing, consideration, discussion on establishing a neighborhood advisory board for Indian Rocks Beach.
Do I have a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. On to 9C, resolution number 2026. Conduct a public hearing, consider discussion action on a resolution of the City Commission of Indian Rocks Beach, Florida, appointing a member of the City Commission to serve as Vice Mayor Commissioner and providing for an effective date. City Clerk Lauren?
Real quick, just to clarify the records, resolution 2026-05, just so that's
Yes.
clear. I think that was last.
2026-05.
Yeah.
Okay. And I did have, any commissioner would like to start off?
Yeah, I'd like to start off. I would like to keep Commissioner Jan Wilson as the vice mayor. And the reason why I say that is she's been real strong and heavy with the Florida League of Cities, plus all of her legislation work, and she's known as the vice mayor of Indian Rocks Beach. I heard that it's supposed to rotate, but she's done a tremendous job bringing this information back to the city. And I think the title of vice mayor is a very strong title to have and for her to keep, since she's already been doing momentum over the last couple of plus years.
I would agree. I think that Jan has done an excellent job. She is a true voice of our community. I would definitely support that. Anybody else?
No, I absolutely support that. I think the notion of rotating is just notional. It's not in our charter anywhere. So I fully support retaining. I love the continuity that
Jan, before, can the mayor make a motion?
No.
No. Okay. Before I do, before somebody does, I would like to commend you for your service. Thank you so much for all you do. You were on the part.
I make a motion to keep Commissioner Jan Wilson, Resolution 2026-05, as the vice mayor of Indian Rocks Beach for her following 2-year term. Do I get a second?
Second.
Yep. I don't think we can do it for the 2-year term. Our charter says that we do the
Right, we
same
have to.
thing.
Is it a 1-year term?
Yes.
Okay, it's a 1-year term. Can you?
I make a motion for a 1-year term for Commissioner Janet Wilson, Resolution 2026-05, as Vice Mayor of Indian Rocks Beach. Do I get a second?
Second.
Do I hear yes or no? Hey, the vote?
All in favor?
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
And I'm sorry, who seconded that?
Lori. Well, the first time it was.
And thank you for your kind words and support, and I will continue to support us in the legislative issues.
Yay.
Thank you. Resolution 2026-06, conduct a public hearing, discussion, action on a resolution of the City Commission of Indian Rocks Beach, Florida, appointing a voting delegate in first and second alternative to voting delegates representing the City of Indian Rocks Beach, Barrier Islands Governmental Council, Big C, meeting and providing for an effective date.
I make a motion that we approve Land Vaughn as our voting member for the Big C.
I second the motion.
And we have an alternate, we'll need an alternate and a second alternate in the agenda, and I'm looking for it right now.
Do we need to make a motion for all three at once?
Yeah,
Yeah,
you
we'll
have to
make a
do,
motion
so,
for all three.
right, so now we're just gonna go to the, who wants to be the first, you guys just have to make a motion to do the first, and then make another motion who wants the second.
Oh, we do a motion for each one?
Yes.
Okay.
Okay, I'm going to move that we appoint Vice Mayor Wilson as our first alternate voting delegate in accordance with resolution number 2026-06.
Do I have a second?
I second the motion.
We need a second alternate.
We need to vote on this one first.
Yes.
Okay. All in favor?
Aye.
I make a motion that we make Hillary King our second alternate for the Big C Council.
Do I have a second?
I second the motion.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
1, 2, 3.
Just to clarify, did you take a vote on the mayor being the representative?
That's what I was
I think there was a
confused on.
motion, but I don't think there was a vote.
We just said we had a
There was
first.
a motion and a second. Did we take a vote on it?
I did hear y'all say aye.
Aye.
For the record, motion passes unanimously.
For the record, the motion met. It's my first time.
It's all right.
We'll get through it. Doing great.
This is good.
And it's a
A
long
lot of
one.
stuff on this, a lot on this agenda.
When you meet only once a month, you have to fill
I'll practice in front of the mirror next month. Resolution number 2026-07, conduct a public hearing, consider discussion action on a resolution of the City Commission of Indian Rocks Beach, Florida, authorizing the city manager to enter into an agreement with Strategic Government Resources Incorporated for strategic planning services. And I'm going to hand it over to our city manager to discuss.
Thank you, Mayor and Commission. And I wanted to have this item on individual consideration after talking with the Commission and getting some feedback and some questions. I really appreciate all that heading into this meeting. So, give a little history to this item. When I interviewed for the city manager position, there was inevitably questions on, what are some things that you would look to do when you got here. And one of the first things that I said I'd be interested in doing is getting together with the city commission and coming up with a strategic plan or strategic goals for this collective body to tackle. When I got here, though, I knew that there were a couple of big things that were out there, right? And both of those things we talked about today, parking and short-term rentals, and so the focus has been on both those items. And will continue to be those items. But I also recognize too that even in this meeting and hearing all of you talk about items that you want to see on the future agenda, is that all of you have ideas. All of you have things that you really want to focus on. You want to see. You want this to be a staple of your time here, and that's wonderful. And I want to be able to foster that, and I want to be able to harness that. My experience in working as a city manager and as assistant city manager, really, in the organizations I've worked in, is that the best way to do that is bring in a facilitator to conduct a strategic planning session, where you spend time together, publicly noticed, public meeting, where you get to really flesh those out. What is it that you want to see? What is it that you want to tackle? What is your vision for Indian Rocks Beach? What do you desire of this community? And again, we have an election every year, right? But this is this iteration. I think it's crucial for myself, for the staff, to really be able to have time with this commission, with a facilitator, to go over that and to chart out what does the next year look like? What are our goals? What are the things that we want to focus our agendas on, we want to focus our efforts on, and putting that down on paper and abiding by it. I think it's a practice that holds true. I think it's something that I know that this city's never done in the past. And I want, I've talked to all of you about this, the agency of the duly electeds to be able to chart and say, this is what we want. This is what we want the city manager, this is what we want the city attorney, this is what we want city staff to focus on. And to do that is best through a facilitated outing with somebody like, a company like SGR, a facilitator that I want to bring in to help do that. You know, there's team building, there's some teamwork that goes into it, getting to know each other better, you getting to know staff, staff getting to know you all better. But this is something that I'm asking for. This is a request of me for I think the benefit of this organization and this community, and this is why I put this before you for consideration. Again, in the memo outlined what they would be doing, who the facilitator would be, his biography, the cost associated with this, and so I'm happy to answer any questions. I worked with, or I reached out to two specific facilitators that I know and have had experience with. SGR is one of them. The other was Raftellus. Raftellus was actually the last facilitated group that I used as a city manager on strategic planning and strategic goals. They were a little bit higher, so this is I think more cost efficient for us to use. But I have supreme confidence that SGR would be able to do a great facilitated outing on defining our strategic goals and setting our path forward. So with that, I'm happy to answer any questions.
I'm opening it up to the commission. Any questions or comments?
I'm excited about the opportunity. It's very similar to something we did at the beginning of the school year with all school administrators in the district I was in, and it really was effective.
One of the questions I have, Ryan, is what kind of cost are we looking at with this?
Sure. So the cost for services would be $14,000, which includes the planning, facilitation, and advanced interviews. So what they would do, the facilitator would spend some time with you one-on-one over the phone, getting to know you a little bit better, your history, why you ran for commission, why you serve, what are the things that you want to focus on, and things that you want to hone in on, and then we would put the facilitator up for one night. We put the facilitator up for 2 nights, assuming that they fly in the day before, and then it's a day and a half of strategic planning and their food. So we would get that. We'd get what that cost would be from that.
What's the way I could put this? Our city attorney as a third party, would he be included in all this?
So, that would be something that, I would leave for the discretion of the commission as the city attorney is your employee. I know that I work very closely with Matt. I think having the attorney involved in this allows the attorney to, hear from you directly too. What are the things that you're focused on for the next year? Because we work so closely together, I think, knowing that we're all on the same page and knowing that the commission has these goals, we can kind of tailor our efforts towards achieving that together. But in the past, I haven't had the attorney involved in this. But we are such a small organization that the attorney does, is in close communication and works very closely with me on these items, and I with him. So my suggestion would be to include the city attorney because the city attorney is so involved with the overarching goals of the city. But again, the city attorney, just like the city clerk, is your employee. So you would just tell me if you want them involved. I know that the dates, unfortunately, the city clerk will be out during that time period, but I do anticipate having other staff there participating.
For the 2026 attorney's budget, does he have any pro bono in there anywhere?
They didn't teach me what that meant in law school. My dad asked me when I first got out of law school, I was like, oh, they didn't teach us that. I thought I'd ask.
Any other?
So, I have a couple of questions. So in your past, does the commission normally attend, like what you've done before? Is it normally a commission and your staff in these workshops, or does it vary?
It varies, and without giving my whole history, I'll give you 2 examples. In Fort Lauderdale, we were so big. right? And it was a week of work. We would alternate staff with the facilitator and then the commission with the facilitator and back and forth. And obviously that gets very costly. In Anna, I use my close staff, my assistant city managers, some of my directors with the commission. But it depended on, are we really just trying to have the commission do team building? Not all commissions work very well together, right? As this one does, but so a lot of times you had to do team building. I didn't want my staff involved in that. I didn't want to see, have them see how the sausage is made. But for this, again, we are a small organization. I value so much the council manager form of government and respecting the roles that the electeds have and the role that the staff has, that I think it would be helpful to have my key management team there with the commission, so they can also hear, not just from me, but they can hear from this body. This is what we want the city to do. This is how we want the city to move forward. Things like that. Mindful of the council manager form of government, but also working together as a team.
And then do you, like you said, I think it's great, it's a wonderful idea, I'm glad you are bringing it forward. Is it something you envision doing every year annually, or?
I think cities do it every year. I don't know if that'll be necessary. I think the goal that I would like to try to get to is to have a set of priorities and kind of a general strategic framework that transcends the next 12 months and that kind of goes into the future. But I think never knowing what the turnover may look like at the commission, and kind of things that come up over time, you may have to adjust it. I'd like to see how this goes, to see if this is worth it, right? And the feedback I get from all of you before deciding what I would ask for next year. Thank you, that was a great question.
Yeah, I wanted to just ask, most of us have done something like this in our previous lives, and they're really beneficial for nothing. Especially in this environment where we really can't talk to each other.
Right.
So it's an opportunity for us to really understand how the other one thinks. And I think that would have been really valuable if we could have done that last year when I first started. But I would really like to think about, planning horizons too. I like the idea that you're thinking this is not just an annual and we're looking at our 12-month goals, because nothing happens that fast in government. So I'd really like to think about it. I'm sure that's what you're suggesting, that maybe we're looking at 5 or 10-year horizons, not just, we need to look at the next year too, because, that's our budget cycle, but I really think 5 to 10 years is something we want to be thinking about.
I think it's worth going ahead and thinking that way, but understanding how sometimes things change, right? And what turnover may look like from the dais or elsewhere. But I think it's worth going ahead and thinking like that, and it allows us to then think about 5 years too, like what we do today. What does that look like, right? 5 years from now too. So planning out ahead like that, I think it's smart.
And I would appreciate if Attorney Nygaard would be able to attend. I think that would be really meaningful for all of us.
What would I open it up to the floor?
Yeah, you can open it up for public comment.
I'd like to open this up for public comment if anybody has any. It is about a strategic government resources for strategic planning for our city.
Hi, Kelly Cicerek, 448 Harbor Drive South. I don't have familiarity with how these retreats work and stay within the confines of the Sunshine Law, Florida Sunshine Law. And since Ryan has conducted one with Fort Lauderdale, he could probably get more input, but it looks like it's coming up quickly on April 15th and 16th. So if Attorney Nygaard is not able to attend that, he might have some input for you now on what some of your restraints are. And I know if you individually submit written, ideas or how you were able to share ideas, I think it's great that you're able to share ideas, but of course you got the constraints of the Sunshine Law. So thank you.
Thank you, Kelly. Is there anybody else on the floor that would like to speak?
Money well spent. I think you guys need to go for it. We need to invest in you so you can invest in us. Take this idea and run with it.
All right, thank you, Scott. I would like to kind of continue the conversation, that we can open it back up with the board.
Do we-
Oh,
so
I need to
Ryan
close
answered
the-
question about the-
Is there anybody else in the thing? So we're closing the floor for discussion. Did I do that right?
Yeah. Yeah. I'm happy to,
I would really like to answer that personally.
oh, go ahead.
Okay. And I'm gonna take the long route there, so you're gonna have to forgive me, Ryan. When I saw this, I had the same questions that you had, Kelly, and I said, this is a concern. And then I said, but it's a great idea. I've done it in the corporations I've been in. I said, I firmly believe that for the $14,000 roughly that we're gonna spend, the return on investment is unbelievable. We're going to have the commission with the leadership team of the city, and we're going to be able to collaborate with them, and it is open to the public. The citizens can come. That's what allows this to happen. So we'll open up the dates, we'll share that, the citizens can come.
Yes, sir. And yes, we would abide by sunshine laws. It's open. It's a working, it's a working
It's a
meeting.
working meeting, so
We're not necessarily working with the community.
We're not.
And everybody's welcome to
But
come.
y'all are there to listen and hear, and you can always send us emails. Or text me after the meeting, I'll listen. I would support this 100%. I think after our past void of leadership in the past several years, that this will bring our city together. It will show our associate employees that they are a part of our family. And it allows us to go forward and do what we need to do as a city to move on and move forward. And I do have a 5-year vision. So I appreciate what you're saying. I want Indian Rocks Beach to be the cottage town that it is today, 10 years from now. And I think we can convey that, and I think we have a team here that can make it happen, and I know we have the citizens' support. I'm going to open the floor to you. If there's no more discussion, then I'm going to call for a motion.
I'll make the motion that we need to turn back a page so I get the right description. That we accept resolution number 2026-07, and that we authorize our city manager to enter into an agreement with Strategic Government Resources Incorporation for a strategic planning service.
I'll second.
I'm going to do a call for a vote. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Nay.
The ayes have it.
The ayes have, yes, motion passes.
Can I still go to the workshop?
No.
Please.
That leaves us with number 10, future agenda items. I did ask Ryan to put this on. We are going to have a short-term rental discussion on April 2026. I've requested this for several reasons. We need to open up, make this ordinance bulletproof. We need to ensure that we have the tools of measure. We've already put the systems in place tonight with our supporting our team with the tools and the mechanics to do it. We now need to make sure that everything is kind of rock solid and we follow through with that. I've also put in a request with the attorney. I've asked to see what we can find out about putting a moratorium or a freeze on short-term rentals, new short-term rentals. We're not stopping the ones that are running, but we're putting a freeze on it so we can play catch up. And what Ken Grimes just shared with us tonight with the short-term rentals that have not been inspected versus the ones that have, I think we have a very good case here. So I'm going to propose that we're going to open this up on April, and we're going to have quite a long conversation. Any questions?
I just have a few comments. I know since I became city attorney, I've had, and I've discussed these with city manager, some suggested changes to the ordinance. I think the timing, we were prohibited really from making any changes because we're in active litigation over parts of the ordinance.
Okay.
But I have some suggested changes, things we need to change and things we can strengthen.
Fabulous.
So I'm looking forward to that. I
Can
just
you,
want to point that out there.
prepare for that meeting?
Absolutely, yep.
All right, thank you.
And, I've already started, I've got the request about the moratorium, we've been researching some of that. I think, I don't have all my research done, I think there's an
That's
argument for it, but I think there's some concerns as
I
well.
look forward to hearing from you on April 1st.
All right.
I just want to go back to John's new business that he added, so would we be trying to get Greg Stewart on board
We could
before that?
discuss it, we could discuss it.
Okay.
And it may not happen, it may be planned according, we need to listen to.
I don't know who Greg Stewart is, or that wasn't discussed with me, but I did take a thorough look at the Flagler ordinance, and I'm not sure that would accomplish what you wanted. I think it would weaken our ordinance to start, because it would allow more, it's not a Bert Harris bar, it's a reduction in the risk. I think it would have been a great addition day one, but if we would go backwards from here because we've already been doing it for 3 years. So what it does is allows investors to buy property or a property that they own, use it for more occupation for a longer period of time, and slower bring that cap down to kind of eliminate the damage claim or reduce the damage claim on the Bert Harris, which would incentivize, disincentivize them to file a Bert Harris claim. But we can talk about this more April 1st. I have a whole analysis on the Bert Harris, and now that the case is settled, I don't think that was the strongest part of their lawsuit. I think we had some areas in our ordinance that I don't want to say. We'll talk about it once we start amending the ordinance. There's some other areas that we were vulnerable, and your commission at the time took that into consideration when they decided to resolve those. So there's definitely some need for change to make it stronger for us.
Yeah, I just wanted to let the board know who I was in contact with, and this is the beginning stages of it, so.
I just couldn't respond. I don't know who that is, but happy to look at it and open to other opinions as well, if that's the way the board wants to go. I'm here to serve at your pleasure and make this thing best possible we can. I think looking at it at this point, I think we'd be going backwards.
Okay.
I also think the risk of valid, I mean, anybody can bring a lawsuit and we have to deal with it, but the risk of real valid Bert Harris claims because of short-term rentals is a limited number of potential properties, because they would have to have owned it before we change the ordinance, which is 2023. They would have to be able to show a legitimate business-backed expectation of investment, and that we're impacting that. And to impact that, it would be reducing the number of people. So it would have to be at least a 5-bedroom home. So if you add all those together, the exposure is a lot smaller than it really seems, I think.
Okay.
But we can talk through all that.
Absolutely.
I just want to clarify that the meeting's April 14th, not April 1st.
April 14th.
Thank you. It was an April Fool's joke.
Yeah, right? That's good. That's good. And I think maybe we just need to take maybe a vote that everyone agrees to have this discussion put on the
Everyone
agenda.
agree to have this discussion.
Yes.
Yes.
So I had also asked to add a discussion about updating our land use and planning and zoning. Do we need to, if we want to add it to the next agenda, do we need to?
I don't think we need formal votes to add things. I think it's a good time to talk about items you want to bring. But really the best way, sorry, I don't want to speak for you, Ryan, but the best way to handle talking about future items is you could reach out to Ryan directly or me, either one of us or both of us, and say, I want to talk about this, can we put it on the agenda? Because there may be reasons you're not aware of that, like maybe next meeting's not the best, we can do it the next, or yes, let's put it on the agenda. that we can add things to the agenda in between meetings as long as it's done before it's published, so.
I just want to make sure that everybody on the commission knows that they can add to the agenda.
Right, and Mayor Vaughn reached out to me and said, I'd like to put this on the agenda, I'd like to get the commission's thoughts on putting this on the April. And I said, I'm used to using future agenda items. That way it's noticed too, so somebody sees the agenda, they know, oh, okay, there's a discussion on talking about short-term rentals. I want to hear what they want to talk about or what they want to say. That way we're just meeting all the public notice requirements.
And the previous administration had.
Okay, we just a quick question for Matt, and you can tell me that you don't think it's wise to answer depending on where we are in the other lawsuits, but I'm assuming there's areas of the short-term rental ordinance that we absolutely do not want to be touching right now.
That's correct.
Okay.
Well, I'm not privy to that. At this particular point in time, I'm going to ask for a motion to adjourn.
I make a motion to adjourn.
Second.
Adjourned.